We welcome in the Raider Nation, JT, along with the finalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Eric Allen. We're excited to be here today for the Pete Carroll, John Spytek Introductory Press Conference coming up here in a little bit. A lot of excitement in the building today, EA.
You have to have some excitement. Coach Pete, all across the world, all across the nation, we know his energy level is extremely high, and happy for Raider Nation that they have someone in the building that each week, whoever that coach is on the opposite sideline, Pete has probably beat that guy before. So excited about Pete joining the Silver and Black Nation.
Really important time as the Raiders look to build the roster, get ready for the draft. The Senior Bowl is going on now. Free agency. But first, this is a monumental day considering the coaches that have been here before Pete Carroll in the history of this franchise. And we can't wait to talk to him because his energy level is next level.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he has some Al Davis stories. You know, he's been in the game long enough to have to battle those Raider football teams, and that's always thrilling and exciting to hear how these coaches who have so much history, so much success, how they feel about the great Al Davis.
This is going to be interesting, too, because this happened pretty quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of coaches, we talked about the coaching carousel. Other coaches are being introduced also today. But for Pete Carroll, he brings in a level of gravitas, a level of respect around the league. And it's going to be really interesting to see how him and John Spytek work together because John Spytek's got a really good reputation over the last couple of years here as being the next young executive in the waiting. So he gets an opportunity of a lifetime. And then just to wonder what Pete Carroll's going to look like on the sidelines with the silver and black, with that high energy. We can't wait for that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he likes about the field, the players on the football field, what he doesn't like, how that kind of blends into what he wants to bring each and every day, and what he emphasizes is going to be incredibly important. I mean, when we talk about football today, we know that the tackling style has changed. Mm-hmm. A big part of that was Pete Carroll. I remember back in high school when my boys were going to high school, we had to change our tackling techniques, and right away we went to the film, and Pete had a whole coaching clinic of his coaches and his players having this new tackling technique, and we adopted that in high school maybe like 7-8 years ago. That just shows you the impact that he's had on the game of football. And now everyone is basically tackling the way that Coach Carroll had perfected and performed in Seattle.
Yeah, I love Pete's coaching style. If you look over the years in Seattle, the Legion of Boom, and the way they played defense, the signature defense at that time for close to a decade. There was a lot of good football teams back then, but when you thought of the NFC West and Pete Carroll, and look at his history here of all the teams he's worked for, also an executive, his defenses were always nasty. They had a swagger. They were oversized in the secondary, big safeties and corners, and they were great tacklers, as you said.
Yeah, and you look at all of those coaching stops, one thing you notice is there was always a really good secondary there, whether it was the big Seattle group who played with this physical presence with those two big safeties, the Vikings with the two corners they had in those mid to late 80s, the Jets, of course, having some good ball players. I remember Eric McMillan was a draft choice who went to the Jets like in 88, 89. It was a tremendous player, like a dual kind of DB. He played a little bit of safety, a little bit of nickel. So Pete has been around some very successful defenses, and I think his hallmark is really loading and building, I should say, a defense from back to forward. There's many coaches, as you know, Buddy Ryan on one hand, he builds his defense from front to back. Pete is one guy who really puts a lot of emphasis on that secondary, those safeties, those corners. So really interested to see what he likes about our secondary.
What I like also is the way his quarterbacks have developed. You could say they overachieved in a good way. Russell Wilson comes in as a third-round pick, and he ends up starting, and he has I think, Hall of Fame legacy and has a great career. And then even Geno Smith, who was a career backup, takes it to the next level. He's a 4,000-yard guy. So as much as he is big time on the defensive side of the ball, he always made sure that his quarterbacks were highly competitive and didn't hurt the football team, stressing lack of turnovers and playing smart football.
Yeah, that's one of the things we want to know.
Yeah.
And how do you adjust as a coach in this league when you've had so much success But where you're coming into, you have a division where they have amazing coaches, great quarterbacks. What are you going to do to compete? And we talk about and we hear about that a lot with Coach Carroll is the competition in practice in the games. It'll be interesting to see how he gets a quarterback and how that quarterback develops in our system like he has been able to do in previous stops.
Well, as we're going to take a look at a live shot, also get an idea of what's happening. The media is in attendance today, and this is a big day. As you can see, the 3 Lombardis are out there. The room is packed downstairs, and we'll have an opportunity to sit down exclusively with Pete Carroll and John Spytek when they're done with the press conference. We got a lot of other guests coming up in my regularly scheduled slot from noon to 2 on Raider Nation Radio. And just to sit back and watch this, because there are changes that happen, and we wish the former coach and GM well. They worked hard to try to bring a winner back to this program here, but we're at a time now where Pete Carroll coming in is a next level hire. And when people around the league saw this move, the age thing doesn't bother me at all. It shouldn't bother anybody. They say 73, he'll be 74 during the season. The energy level is that of someone in their 40s or 50s, and that's not going to slow down. And I really believe, I'm going to ask him about this throughout the time, maybe not in our first interview, but this is a legacy play for him. I think he's already in the Pro Football Hall of Fame with his accomplishments. Should have had 2 Super Bowls. He has 1. What if this is the cherry on the top? What if this is him bringing the Raiders back to where they need to be, a perennial playoff team, taking a shot at the Super Bowl? He's not coming in here for a rebuild and looking at something long-term. He's here to fix this and win. This guy's a winner.
Yeah, he is. And in the locker room and on the football field, I think he's going to be aided by what AP was able to do. As far as that culture is concerned, I think the guys are there. They understand what this brand is about and how they should act and react to certain situations because of the great job, the locker room job that Antonio Pierce and the past coaching staff did. So he's going to be a plus in that situation. Not going to be hard to sell what he is preaching. On the other hand, I really think Pete, when he steps on the football field, has a sense of respect from everyone around the league. Something that the young coaches, even Ben Johnson, who's going to Chicago, he's going to have to prove that. We have a guy who's already proved that on all types of levels. And I agree with you. I think he's a Hall of Fame coach. And this is an opportunity like it has been, since the beginning of the Raiders, to really give that player or that coach who has maybe had some bumps and hurdles an opportunity to get here and really explode off the foundation that this organization is built off of. And I think we're really excited about this and hopefully able to add another picture to those coaching legacies that are here. And I think he's the perfect person for this situation to take over from AP and what he has built, and hopefully Coach Carroll can finish the job.
Let's take a look at the John Spytek resume as he comes in to take over this position here, going back to the Eagles.
Yeah.
And then the Browns, the Broncos. There was a Super Bowl championship there and also one with Tampa Bay. So he's been a part of 2 Super Bowl champions, but when he became the VP of player personnel in 21-22 before the assistant general manager, he kind of put together that second Super Bowl team for Tampa Bay, led by Tom Brady. He goes back to Tom Brady for their years at Michigan.
Yeah, and you look at that, the beginning and the end are really critical in how you're formed. Like what you're being fed every single day when you're with the Philadelphia Eagles, and the past 10 to 15 years, their roster has been full of just impactful, important football players. And then to end that before he got here to Tampa, the same thing. You look at that roster, from secondary, linemen, quarterback, there's always have players that are going to have an impact on Sunday. So those are things that, hey, he was built the right way. He was able to learn from a lot of good personnel people and hopefully get it done here with the Raiders.
Okay, we're going to go live to the press conference.
Here to introduce the general manager of the Las Vegas Raiders, John Spytek. John, please come on in. And the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, Pete Carroll. I'm going to have some things to say afterwards, but right now I'm going to let you get to these guys and learn about what the future of the Raiders holds for us.
You guys step up on the stage and we'll take a quick photo up before you get going.
Yeah. It's quiet in here. What's going on?
Make it up.
All right. Let me just introduce the
You got it.
Also, I'd like to introduce the families of John's wife, Kristen. Here they are, and Jack and Tom. The children. Please give them a hand. And then, of course, Pete's wife, Glenna, is also here as well. Give them a hand. I want to welcome them to the Raider family, and let's go.
We'll begin with some opening remarks from General Manager John Spytek, followed by Head Coach Pete Carroll, and then we'll open it up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for the introduction. I cannot express how grateful and excited I am to be here, to be given this opportunity, to be a part of an iconic cornerstone franchise like this. So just a dream come true for me, with many dreams still out in the future to get accomplished. This isn't the final goal, but this was certainly one of my career goals, and just so grateful for the time, the belief in me, and Coach Carroll to do our thing and make this organization proud. I want to thank everybody for coming today as well. The support is awesome. It means a lot to see so many people here. I've seen some familiar faces, and I can't wait to get to know you all better and work hand in hand with all of you. So I want to thank the interview group as well. It was a tremendous experience sitting in front of those people, having them answer questions, having them throw questions at me, having them challenge me. To have their belief as well, along with Mark's, is just something that is empowering. It gives me confidence, and I feel that they made a great decision. So I couldn't be more excited to be here. I want to thank the Glazer family too for having me the last 9 years. It was an awesome opportunity to work for a great franchise. They are an awesome ownership group. They gave us all the resources to do our jobs well. Proud what we accomplished there, and just grateful to have had the opportunity to work for them. I want to thank some of my mentors that I would not be here without. Tom Heckert, the late Tom Heckert, who believed in me when I was a young scout, young cocky scout, 24 years old, out of Michigan. Thought I knew everything, but he took me under his wing, gave me opportunities, and really that's what, to me, this league is about: finding young people that are hungry, that love the game of football, giving them a chance to pursue their passion, their dreams. Jason Light, my boss the last 9 years at Tampa, believing in me when I was a young scout as well in Philadelphia, giving me an amazing chance to help lead a franchise at a young age, at 35 years old. I worked every day to make him proud. We accomplished a lot together, and I'm just so grateful for him. And then two of my other mentors from the dreaded Denver Broncos, I have to say it though, Matt Russell and John Elway, from my time there. They picked me up when I was kind of at a low in my professional career and gave me an opportunity to kind of revitalize myself, reshape myself, and chase a passion again. My family sitting in the front row here, I'm going to try not to get too choked up. My wife, Kristen, is my rock. She is the strongest person I know. She is an unbelievable mother to these two boys, Jack and Tommy, down here, who I couldn't be more proud of. They're doing awesome right now. They're behaving. They look awesome, and they look awesome in silver and black. And they cannot wait for me to shut up so they can go back out and throw balls all over the practice field out there. But you're going to see my wife around a lot. She is going to be a big pillar in this community. We're going to be big pillars in this community. It's important to us to give back, and she's as tough as they come too. So I promise you, I'm ready for this job, because she's harder on me at home than anybody else is when it comes to football. My mom and my dad, I wish they could be here today. My dad is actually getting hip surgery right now, a hip replacement, so he can get back on the golf course and pickleball. I love you both. I would not be here without your love and support. You showed me what it is to be a parent, to support children, and I think these two are doing so well right now because of the gifts that my mom and dad gave me and the support they gave me growing up. A couple more people here. My high school coach, Bill Young, one of the winningest coaches in the history of the state of Wisconsin. I learned at a young age what winning looks like, what a great program looks like, what toughness looks like, how to compete. I've never forgot it. He's still coaching to this day. He's like 75 years old. He can't give it up and wins state championships all the time. So, Coach, I hope you're out there watching somewhere. I love you. Thanks for.
Why are you looking at me?
Just a guy that loves football, just like you. A couple more here, then I'll turn it over to this guy.
Sorry, my bad.
Lloyd Carr and the University of Michigan for giving me a chance to follow my first football dream, to play at the greatest university there is. I know a lot of people would disagree with that, but we have the most wins all time, and I will not apologize for that. So
Good for you.
I learned about what team is about, what selflessness is about, what toughness is about, what competitive stamina is about, and that's going to be some of the pillars that we talk about and enforce here. All the scouts that I've worked with throughout my career, I learned so much from you. This is not me sitting up here. I feel like this is us sitting up here. I tried to learn so much from every person that I was around, from the Eagles to the Browns to the Broncos to the Bucks, and now here. I don't pretend to have all the answers. I met so many wonderful people along the way that I worked great with that helped me get to where I'm at. And then the final people I want to thank are the players. To me, this game has always been about the players. I have a love affair of watching this game. I have a love affair of watching players compete. They're the ones that lay it on the line every Sunday, Monday night. My respect for them is immense, and I would not be here without the players that I've been a part on the teams I've been a part of, the Tristan Wirfs of the world, the Peyton Mannings of the world, the Demarius Thomases of the world. I mean, I could go on and on. Joe Thomas. I mean, I've been around truly some of the great players of the last 20 years, and I've got to see what it looks like, what greatness looks like, what competitiveness looks like. I see Max standing back there. He embodies all that stuff that we're talking about. And I just love watching players compete and perform, and I am so grateful to all the men that competed and laid it on the line so I could sit in a spot like this today. And the last thing I want to say before I turn it over to Coach is when I dreamt about having one of these jobs, I always wanted it to be with an iconic franchise like the Raiders. I'm not sure I ever got far enough in my dreams as a young kid in Pewaukee, Wisconsin, that I could be sitting up here today with the Raiders. But here I am, and there's just some teams where it means a little bit more. There's just some teams where they deserve to be the NFL's better when they're crushing it. And to have been given that responsibility is not something I take lightly, but I am extremely honored and humbled to be up here with that opportunity out in front of us, and I cannot be more excited to get started and to get started with Coach Carroll here. So I appreciate you all. I look forward to getting to know all your names, getting to know all you better, talking with you, and build this thing the right way so the Raider Nation can be proud, the former players of the Raiders can be proud, and we can be where some of these teams are now, still playing. That's the goal. So thank you all.
This special day is unique, and for so many reasons. I first want to say I'm so fired up to be here with John, and because I know that first time around is really something, and so we're gonna celebrate this in a fantastic way. We're gonna partner in this thing. It's so important that our relationship is dynamic and extraordinary and true, and so you'll see that come in time. So nice job, man. Congrats. Being a kid that grew up in the Bay Area, and my dad made me a Niners fan when we were going to Kezar Stadium back in the day, parking in Golden Gate Park, and then the Raiders came to town. And when you're in the Bay Area, you can take sides and all, but the Raiders captured me a long time ago, and I'm just filled with gratitude to be part of this. There's so many elements that made this come together that are so special and so unique. And as you heard John, start right with family and the support that we get. My wife Glenna is here. That she's been through it all. We've been through every imaginable experience in this game, and she has stood so strong with me, and she's meant everything in the world. She's been involved with this process all the way throughout, and side by side, we're here, and so we're really excited about that. We got a big family, and because you mentioned the numbers, I've got grandkids, and I love them, and we got a bunch of them, and we got a whole family to follow this venture that we take here. This really begins with the Davis family, and I grew up under Mark's dad, watching this program come together. But I've seen in such short order, just in this time that we've come together to get to this point, Mark Davis put together an extraordinary group. to make this happen and make this a unique opportunity in the league and a unique opportunity for the Raider Nation and for our fans that will follow us. And it's one of a kind. And he's assembled a group to support us that I know that John and I have just been knocked out by ownership that is one of a kind. And you know, Egon Durbin is part of this. Michael Meldman's part of this. Tom Wagner's part of this. But when Mark figured out how valuable it would be to put Tom Brady in this mix and bring that kind of football background and history, Mark made a great move. And it's our job to celebrate that for Mark and to make sure that this comes to life the way it can, with the great possibilities and the great future and the immediate future as well. So my hat's off to you guys. I'm so fired up that we're doing this together, and it's going to be unique. Then they're going to be surprised what comes. As far as for my opportunities, you know, I've been all over the place. You guys all know that, and I've had great chances to start up programs that had faltered in the past. And when we went to USC, it was after being fired a couple times, and I've been through that. And I was a young coach and found out I didn't know anything after my experiences, but had an opportunity to find my philosophy and my approach. And following the New England days, and the next stop was USC, and that university was an extraordinary match for me at the time. They were struggling. We put something together, and we did something historic there on the really based on a philosophy that came out of all of the years before, the 27 years it took me to get to that point in my coaching career. And to me, I look back at the days in Los Angeles at SC as really the building blocks of the philosophy that we were able to take to Seattle, and to carry the mentality and the approach and the design of it and the culture that we established into the NFL to see if it would work. It was really just an experiment in my mind. But in both situations, it just took us a couple of years to get going. And I know that rhythm, and I'm expecting that rhythm. I'm anticipating that we're going to find that rhythm right here, right now, here in Vegas. And so with the Raiders and this opportunity, I feel like I've been there before. And I'm going to bank on that. And I'm going to follow my instincts and support with John and through as we extend to ownership in a way that we're going to be proud of, and we're going to be fired up about who we are and what we stand for. We have a great following in the Raider Nation, and they've done amazing. They've made an amazing statement globally, and I'm so proud to be part of that and recognizing that we get to represent our following. And here in Las Vegas, to do it in this setting right here, where people can't wait to come see us, they can't wait to see what we're all about, wherever our fans come from. We do want to fill our stadium up with our guys. I know that we have a good draw for people from out of town. There you go, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, Mark, settle down a little bit. But it's real. This is a real challenge for us, and we're going to go arm in arm, John and I, and we're going to put this thing together in a way that's going to make you proud. You know, you all wondering about timelines and all that. It took us a few years to get to the very top of the last couple programs I was with. We're starting right now, going for it immediately. We don't have some timeline. We got to make it 5 or 6 years down the road. That's not what we're thinking. We're going to start right now to go after it and build this team as quickly as we can. As John saw Max back there, Max, send a message, man. We're coming after you. We're going to come find you guys and get this thing rolling as soon as possible with the highest of expectations, with a mentality that will drive high performance in a way that hopefully everybody's going to hear us and they're going to know us. And so I'm really proud to take on that challenge. So thrilled to be here. Thanks again to Mark and Tom and guys. Thank you here. Away we go. Let's go. Raiders Nation. Let's go, baby.
With that, we'll start right over here with Paul. Ashley and Jade have microphones on either side. Please state your name and affiliation.
Paul Gutierrez from ESPN. Pete, long time no see,
hey.
From back in LA. How does your experience as a veteran coach mesh with John's vision as a first-time GM going forward?
Oh, man, I think it's a perfect mesh opportunity for us to show you how important it is for this relationship to be at the tip of the spear for our program. His background, his mentality, his devotion to character and football and the game and having respect for what it takes to make this thing strong and right, it has just hit me right in my heart. And so I'm thrilled about sharing the years and the experience with the energy and the juice that he brings, and so it's going to work out great.
Hi, this is Vic Tafer from The Athletic. Congratulations for both you guys. Is there any kind of history between you two guys going back? And what excites you about this partnership going forward, about having this pairing together?
Go ahead.
A little history in Super Bowl 48. I was working for the Broncos, and we got our faces caved in by the Legion of Boom in that. I told him when I first talked I was still sore from that, but I've been a big fan of his for a long time. The energy that his teams play with, the commitment to run the ball, play great defense, support the quarterback. I mean, we're going to do all those things here, and that all came through the first couple phone conversations I had. I mean, we two people that I think are just have a love and respect and passion for the game, and although we've kind of grew up on different coasts, we see the game very similarly, and I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, I think our connection with the game of football and how much we love what this stands for and what it's all about, and has connected us like immediately. And so it's been seamless in the way we go. We've got a lot of difficult decisions to make, and you'll see us come together on our thoughts and all. But I with absolute conviction that we're gonna go take this together and take it on in a really great fashion.
Coach Carroll, Levi Edwards, Las Vegas Raiders. You talk about building a culture at USC and then bringing that over to the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks. When you talk about building a culture, whether it's your players or your staff, what are some non-negotiables that you must see that are mandatory to build that culture in your eyes?
Yeah, well, the culture is the players, and you'll see that, but we'll show them the way, and it all starts with competition. I mean, you're either competing or you're not, and I'm going to make sure that that's really clear to these guys from the moment they get here. We're going to go out and draft a class, and there'll be a few free agents who maybe we'll be able to attract, and we'll need to see those guys, and we'll need to see what they're all about. But the competition part of it is theirs to command. If there's one thing that I want them to understand, and start the message right now, if you want to be on a great team, you need to be a great teammate. And so teaching what that's all about and instilling that in the makeup of our program is going to be crucial. And the central theme in the program is always going to be competition, and that's where it starts.
Question for both of you guys. You guys have both won Lombardies. This is Q Myers from Raider Nation Radio 920 right back here. You guys have both won Lombardies, one with different style of quarterbacks. But for you, what are non-negotiables that are you looking for your leader, your quarterbacks?
I'd go back to that. I mean, I got a chance to be around, in my opinion, the greatest player ever. And it was a love of the game and a competitive desire that just didn't allow him to quit. He was never out of a fight. He was willing to do things that the ordinary football player person wasn't willing to do. And, we're gonna turn over every stone to find that leader for this team too. There's just gonna be certain requirements of the job, and it doesn't necessarily take the strongest arm or the best thrower. It's the guys that will push their teammates to a place that's uncomfortable, that will give almost anything to win. That's what the best ones do, and we're gonna find one of those.
Yeah, I would add to that it's our mission to build this football team up around the quarterback position. It isn't the only spot. We happen to have the greatest of all time to help us and to see clearly, and we're gonna lean on Tom as much as we possibly can for his insights, because nobody has the insights that he has. He's that unique. But it's the quarterback position is one of the positions on the team, and we've got to make it all fit together well. I've had pretty good success with my quarterbacks in the past. You can go all the way back to college days, and they've all turned out to be really extraordinary members of our club. There's a way to embrace the challenge that the quarterback has from the rest of the football team as well. We need to support our guy, and we need to do what we can to make that work. It's really about making a great football team around the quarterback position. Coach Walsh taught me a long time ago that it's the hardest position in professional sports to play, and so we need to make it as easy for them as possible. And we'll go about doing that by running the football, protecting them, taking care of the ball, playing great defense, and kicking the football when we want to kick it. And There's a lot that goes into this, but to think about how fortunate we are to have Tom Brady with us, it's just a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Adam Hill, Las Vegas Review-Journal, here for Pete. You've accomplished everything.
Put your hand up so we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You've accomplished everything that you could accomplish in this business. Why is it that you wanted to seek a new challenge, and what is it about this challenge that interested you?
It was never been about accomplishments. It's never been about that. It's about the game and loving it and playing. I really have realized again in this year, that when you get a year to take a step away from it, it's incredibly valuable. My last time I stepped away from it was the year after New England. I stayed out a year, and the next thing that happened is I went to USC. And to me personally, that the rest was history. It hasn't been about trying to win the championship games so that I can put that banner or that ring in my drawer. It's not about that. It's about competing. It's about being the best you can possibly be with what you have to work with, and taking on the challenges of it, and all of the that goes into making that happen for the players. It's the relationships with the players. It's building the mentality that everybody that comes to our program has a unique quality that makes them them. And I'm going to try to figure out what that is and find a way to bring that to the surface. And in doing so, you give everybody the chance to be as good as they can possibly be. That's what this is about to me. And so it hasn't been about just the rings. It's been about much more than that.
It's Tashan Reed from The Athletic. Pete, when you were at the Seahawks, you also had the title of Vice President of Football Operations and final say on roster decisions. Is that a role you envision having similarly here, or do you feel like you're going to defer?
We're sharing everything. We're collaborating to the nth degree. And we're going to do this. We're going to draw the best we possibly have out of each other to make every decision we can make as clear and as sound as possible. And we're going to be able to use our guys that are on top. The success stories of our ownership group is it's unmatchable. And so we're going to lean on those guys to help us when we need them. And they know they're part of this competition too. But you're going to see us. We're partners in this, and that's the way we did it before. You watch that. If you look at what happened over the 14 years, you wouldn't have known who was calling what. And that's the way I want it to be. And I know John's on board with that.
Case Kiefer, Las Vegas Sun. For Pete, you kind of mentioned or alluded to some of the similarities coming into this job as at USC and Seattle, a season or two of rough times, but you were able to get the team to respectability kind of right away there. What are some lessons from those first two seasons at your last couple stops that you learned you can put into here?
Yeah, the lessons that are really clear is that we have a philosophy and a way to do things, with things we believe in, and the sooner we can get to everybody understanding it and being on board with it, the sooner we'll move ahead and move forward. I'm not talking about just the football team. I'm talking about the people that are in the organization. I'm talking about the people that support us. Everybody that has an inkling that they want to see what we're all about, we're teaching, and we're reaching out to them. I think it takes everybody to make us as good as we can possibly be. And so it's that process that we'll go through that we've done before, that it's an exciting, challenging, kind of once of a lifetime opportunity again, and so we're going to take it on with a great energy about it.
Reed with the Raiders Spanish broadcast. Coach Carroll, we've all seen the videos of you throwing the football, catching the football, having fun out there with the players. How important is it to keep that aspect, but at the same time keeping the structure and having the discipline to be a winning team, but the fun, it seems like it's an aspect that's important for you?
To me, it's always been about playing catch. I love the game since I was a little kid, and I if I get a chance to go out and throw the ball around, I'm doing it. And so that's how you're going to see us. That's what I'll do first time on the practice field as we get going. It's my love for the game that goes all the way back to the basics of it. I don't do stuff like everybody else. And really, that's not my goal, to try to match up how other people that have run this thing. And I've had, like John mentioned, extraordinary mentors through the process to get to where I am. But I'm not trying to do it like anybody else knows how to do it. I'm going to try to do it the way that comes right from the center of my heart, and what I think is the most important aspects of it, and how this thing works, and how and extend that mentality to the people that are in our organization, because we need to be on the same page. And so I need to do a really good job of teaching and a really good job of illustrating and being the image of what that looks like. And there's no end to that to me. And you either, like I said, you either competing or you're not, and I'm always competing. So that's how we'll get it done in every way possible. To me, this game should be fun. If we're not having fun, I'm screwing it up. And we're going to have fun in this room right here with our team. They're going to grow in here. They're going to find out what we're all about, and they're going to understand what they're representing. And if I do a good job of teaching, and so that's what I'm bringing to it. And if you don't want to compete, you're in the wrong place. And our players will understand that early on. When we went to Seattle, we went through a lot of transactions, and it was to find the right people. John and I are in total concert of the kinds of people that are going to build this program. We're going to build this program around. And so there's a way to get to that, and we've been through this, and it's really exciting to have the opportunity to do it again. Why, yes, okay, why would I want to do it again? That it's because it's that chase and that pursuit of the passion that we want to find. So.
Alex Eshelman with Channel 13 Sports right here. Congratulations to the both of you. Coach Carroll, you've mentioned Tom Brady's name multiple times in this presser.
Have I done it too much?
No, not in my opinion, no. What has his influence been like for you both to want to be a part of this franchise, and what was his involvement like in the hiring process for the both of you?
He's been integrally involved, wherever I know that the process could allow him to be in. We haven't seen him, he's not been here, he's got a big job. But he has been a really exciting part of it. Exciting to me because he's one of the great competitors that have ever lived. And so for me, that's a chance to understand more deeply what that's all about, where that comes from. And so, but this is his opportunity to put his stamp on a franchise. And so we're excited to represent that bringing him into it. Mark has done an incredible job to figure out how to formulate this plan so that we could all fit together. So he's been involved, and he's going to continue to be involved, and we're going to lean on him like crazy.
Ed Graney, Review Journal. John, how do you begin the process now of building this roster? What's your first steps, and where do you go from today?
Where's our guy? Oh, there he is. Could you ask the question again? I was looking for you. I couldn't find it.
Yeah. To John, the process, where do you begin today after you leave here? Like, how do you build this roster from what you've seen in the past, or have you seen much of it?
Well, my job for the past 9 years has been to see the NFL, and it's in totality every year. So yes, I'm familiar with it. We obviously played the Raiders this year in Tampa Bay. My first order of business is going to be getting with Coach here. We're going to talk more about the kind of player we want, what it looks like at every position, the kind of person we want. To me, it's vitally important. You're going to hear, I think both of us continue to talk about that. What does it mean to be a Raider? What are the qualities that we're going to stand for? What are the qualities that everybody that comes into this building is going to stand for? I take that very personally and very seriously as a responsibility of mine. Is like the scouts are in charge of finding the right kind of people to bring into an organization. There's no greater responsibility, I don't think, than that. We will be what our character kind of will be our fate, in a sense. And we're looking for first people that love football, that want to compete every day, or there just won't be a place for you here, and that's okay. We want it to be a hard team to make. We want it to be a hard job every day, but for those that are willing to step up to that challenge and be a part of that, there'll be a great reward at the end of it. We've both lived it. We know what it looks like. So I'm less concerned about roster construction right now and, this position or this position. We've got some really good players in this building, really good, and everybody knows that. They know who they are. Our job is going to be to find more of them, but it's going to start with the person.
Hondo Carpenter from SI. John, when I covered you as an intern in the Detroit Lions, up in Bill Keenest's office with Matt and Sheldon, and you came in and they called you the whiz kid.
I didn't know that till you put that out there, a week ago? And all my friends found it. I was the whiz apparently for the past 20-something years.
Yeah, and still laughing with them today. I mean, they talk about you were a phenomenal listener, and that's still what people say about you from Tampa Bay. So how much of being a successful executive is really pinned on being a good listener?
Oh, man, great question.
I think it's a great question. I would start by, when I was in Detroit, I was in operations, and all I wanted to do was get into scouting, but it was my foot in the door. I mean, I bothered everybody that had any kind of computer where I could watch tape on it forever, and then I would just go there and listen and try to understand what they were looking for in players, what made them tick. Did they like speed? Did they like quickness? Did they like high character guys? Did they want to take risks? I mean, to me, that's that's just kind of who I am as a person. I'm infinitely curious. I'm open-minded. And I think if people just slow down sometimes and listen to the people around them, it's amazing how much you can learn. I tell my wife all the time, the nature of a scout is to always be watching and observing. So I'm always watching and observing. I just watched my young son here tie his shoes for the last 10 minutes, but they're both tied now, so they look good. Good job, Tommy. It's such a great quality. And, people will tell you the truth in this business if you find the right people. And our job as scouts and where I've come up is to get to the root of who people are and decide whether or not we want to add them to our organization. I mean, that's ultimately what we're trying to do.
Can I add to that answer, Johnny? You okay with that?
Of course.
Yeah, being a great listener is a huge aspect of what I think is important in a great competitor. And it's why are you listening? Because you want to learn. You want to know. You want to hear. I'm hoping that we'll all sense that this is a relationship-based organization. And that means that we're going to build it around the people that are here. And you can't celebrate the people that are here if you don't listen to who they are and you don't watch and observe. And so I'm hoping this will be an outstanding characteristic of our program because we don't have any time. We got to get going. And so, but we have to work at doing that. And it's proactively listening and proactively working at understanding who you're dealing with so we can teach them really well because we know them. And so I love that question, Hondo. Thank you.
Carter Owen with the Las Vegas Raiders. Pete, you mentioned how time away from coaching can be valuable. Did you learn anything about yourself or the role as a head coach in this past year that you think can be beneficial as you get started here with this new opportunity?
Hey, I wouldn't be competing if I wasn't learning. That's the whole point. You got to keep on, stay curious and make sure that you're always on the next opportunity to be a little bit better. I had an incredible year. I got to watch JV football in high school. My grandson playing quarterback, then he played on the varsity team as well. I watched all those games. My son was coaching at the U up in Seattle. He's offensive coordinator there. Got to watch all of their games, watched everything I could watch in the league, watched my other son and all of my guys coaching, Danny Quinn and David Canales and guys around the league that have been with me. It's been a year full of just input. And so as the last time I had a year that I stepped away from it, and it was extraordinarily life-changing for me, this year I feel has been the same. The extraordinary opportunity to see things uniquely when you're not coaching ball, you don't get that observation opportunity. You just can't because you're so immersed in what you're doing. It was extremely valuable. So I can't wait for all of the things that I see that I want to do differently than what we've done in the past. And I think there are improvements, or I wouldn't be thinking that. And it's been an amazing journey to get to this moment right here. And so I'm really fired up about taking advantage of that year.
Pete, Sean Zattel, Vegas Sports Today. Right over.
Yeah.
Hi, Pete. You're set to make history as the oldest tenured coach in NFL history. I know you mentioned you don't really do this for accomplishments, but you have accomplished everything. So what makes you still want to coach at this age and also believe that you can still do it at a high level at an age no one's been able to do it in the NFL before?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm not real proud of wearing this number 73 on my back, but that's not what fires me up. But it isn't about accomplishing things to say you were worthy. It's what you got to do next that counts. What's the next thing up? And so I laid low during this football season, and I'm teaching a class at USC that's been a thrill. I've not been one step away from what we're doing and at any time and what we're up against here. I'm just so grateful that have been given the opportunity to do this again and define it. Because to me, it's the very next step that we get to take that fires me up. It's the very next challenge. It's coming back, or it's overcoming, or it's celebrating the success that you just had in making yourself come back to basics and continue to be uncommonly consistent that drives me, So the stuff that you guys have heard, about Pete and having fun, like you mentioned about throwing the ball around, all that, that's part of it. That's part of it. But it's about the competing and proving that you have value and you have worth and you can add to it. I don't care how old you are. And for anybody out there that's old and wants to know how you do it, you freaking battle every day and you compete and you find your way to get better. And everybody needs to be coached up, and that's what's been happening for me. And I would like to extend that thought to anybody that wants to hear it, because we can get better and we can do more things that are of value, and we can love our families more and our people around us. I mean, all of that stuff. So obviously I'm freaking jacked up, so that shouldn't surprise you, but.
Go ahead, Zeke.
All right, good morning, guys. Congratulations. John, you mentioned a lot of different people that you came across along the way that have helped you out. What was the biggest lesson that you've learned that might have helped you or that may help you with this position?
It's about the people you surround yourself with. And when you're dealing with an organization like this, it's everybody from, it's literally the entire organization. I mean, I think people focus on the players all the time, and I've already told you guys how much I value and respect and honor the players. I mean, it's what they're all about. But, you know, I don't think we'll only be as good as the people that we bring into this organization or keep in this organization. I think there's a lot of probably great people here that I just haven't met yet, and I can't wait to meet them. But I went to Cleveland in 2010, and they hadn't had a lot of success. And we found a scouting department that was just looking for a little bit of energy and excitement, and when we provided that. Now, we didn't win enough games there, which is what this is about, but there's a lot of great people there, and they worked their asses off to find good players, and almost all those guys are still in the league right now because they're good people. They just needed an extra chance. And so I just learned that a long time ago. I mean, Andy Reid, John Harbaugh, I mean, Spags, I mean, the staff that I started with, Sean McDermott, we were good in Philly because we had a lot of great people there that loved football, and that's what we're going to try to do here. If you love football, there'll be a place for you.
All right, we're going to wrap it up with Levi, Mark Anderson, and then Tashan.
John.
Raise your hand.
Right there.
There you go.
You've been around a lot of great football minds, you know, from a front office and coaching, you know, aspect within your career. When you see Pete Carroll from afar and what he's accomplished, you know, what are some things in this role that you're looking to learn or gain from him in terms of insight or things that you feel like you can take away from him as a GM?
Well, I can't wait to see what compete for Pete looks like every day. I think I got a pretty good feel for it so far. But just the energy and the passion that he presents with every day has been something that I've been drawn to over the past, it feels like we were talking on the way here, like it feels like it's been 10 days, but I think it's only been like 3
a few days.
Since we first started talking. You know, just the way he leads a program. I mean, everywhere he's been, he's won. I mean, I go back, I can remember vividly watching those USC teams. I mean, they were some of the most fun football teams I've ever watched. And I think I admired them a lot because, yes, they were full of talent. And our job is to find a lot of talent here. But they were full of competitors and guys that love football. And I'm sorry if we're ad nauseum talking about love football, but that's to me what this is about. You got to love this. And I can't wait to learn from him. I mean, he's a wealth of knowledge. He's crushing this press conference. He's got people excited. And I've just been a fan for so long. And to get the chance to sit up here alongside of him today and now work alongside of him is an honor. And I'm just fired up.
Okay, go on. That's all right.
Yeah.
Pete.
Yeah.
Mark Anderson, EP. What are your thoughts on putting together your staff?
Say that again, please.
What are your thoughts on putting together your staff?
Yeah, well, we're in the midst of getting started. I mean, like John and I, we're just getting started at it. However, we have been talking to some people, and we're going to try to put this thing together. I'm really looking for people that have been with me, that understand the philosophy to some extent. I want guys that have never been around me before so that they have to learn what we're all about, and we can watch the process of them learning who we're all about and what we expect. And then I'm hoping that we can maintain some of the terrific coaches that are on the staff too, so we can have the benefit of the insights that they bring and the continuity that they can generate for us. So it's a combination of people that we're looking for, but it's all going to fall back into the same theme. We want ball people. We want guys that love the game, and I mean that's obviously if nothing else, we've hammered that home today, Johnny. So that's, you know, we want to make sure that we do that. Also, it's important to find people that can help us grow, you know, and challenge us, and those also, I know in my history, I need people to keep me on track. As you can tell, I get pretty juiced up, and I'm going to get going. I need people to keep me balanced. That's why Glenn has been so important over the years to keep me rolling. But so it'll be a combination to get that done if we do it well, and it's out there for us, and we've got a lot of people that are really interested. So we got to do a great job of that.
John, a question for you. You've been a part of successful teams that have won Super Bowls, and it's been a mix of, you know, homegrown talent as well as, you know, players that you got through free agency or trades. How do you, you know, plan on straddling that balance between, you know, every GM wants to build through the draft, but also taking some swings in free agency and trades?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think there's any perfect way to do it. You know, for us in Tampa recently, it was definitely draft and develop. I think at the start of the season, 44 of the players that made the initial 53 were drafted or signed by us as undrafted free agents. I think all but 2 starters were. But at the end of the day, we're gonna look anywhere we can to find a good football player. You know, I don't care if it's at Michigan, Ohio State. It pains me to say Ohio State, but I have to respect them. But our job is to be so open-minded where we will literally go anywhere in the country, anywhere in Canada to find a good football player. And you know, I always admired the way that they started in Seattle at the quarterback position in particular. They just kept taking shots and shots and shots. They traded, they drafted guys high. They find their way to Russell. I mean, what an unbelievable move that was. You know, he was a little bit different. He was under 6 feet at a time where most quarterbacks were over 6 feet, so willing to think outside the box a little bit. And these are things that I've learned throughout my career. And so, yes, we want to draft and develop because it's the best way to build a solid foundation of a team and then to reward those players with second contracts because we know exactly what we're doing. But if the opportunity comes to sign a Tom Brady or a Baker Mayfield or trade for a Jason Pierre-Paul or Rob Gronkowski, just examples of my career, we will absolutely do that when the team is ready and the organization is ready for that.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. That'll conclude our press conference. The media, we'd like you to share a meal with us in the meal room right behind the doors there. And thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, that's the press conference. We'll be talking to Pete Carroll exclusively, along with John Spytek coming up here, JT, along with Eric Allen, and what we expected. High energy, a deep dive, and what Pete Carroll thinks about this organization, along with John Spytek, working together. 2 gentlemen that are just getting to know each other. They seem like they're on the same page, EA.
Yeah, and I like the fact, relationship-wise, which is the ultimate. It's what works in every form of business work. It's the relationship. And it seems like right now they understand exactly what they're looking for. Both guys have great energy, have passion for the game, which I incredibly love.
Yeah.
But it's really about that relationship. And it seems like they're starting on the right track.
I think the most important thing that I took away was Coach Carroll saying, we want to win now.
Yeah.
Again, the issue where he is in his life, and I can't wait to ask him this when he comes in studio. I am fascinated by his year off. Not many people in life, you were able to do it as a player, you became a broadcaster pretty quickly. When you do have 1 year off to kind of evaluate everything, for him it was about his family, his grandkids, his sons, watching him coach. So it seems like he had an amazing year to step away from the game, even though he wasn't far away from it.
Yeah, to be able to look at the levels, that's the one thing that kind of stuck out to me is you're looking at JV games, you're looking at college games, you're looking at the professional game, all of the coaches that you have mentored are having success, and you're bringing it all together. You're able to kind of focus on what's the constant positive in all of those opportunities to learn, and then you're able to not on Tuesday or Wednesday, you're able to kind of check it all out.
Our teammate Lincoln Kennedy joins us, one of the greater greats and part of our broadcast team. And Lincoln, is the big deal. Pete Carroll, John Spytek, they just had their press conference. Seems like they want to get going quickly in reframing this roster and getting the Raiders back to their winning ways. How'd you see it?
Well, it's exactly right. First of all, it's good to be with you guys and a Happy New Year and everything. It's exactly right. Look, this organization has wanted to win since EA and I left the team. And there's no doubt about that. And they've had limited amount of success. And now when you look at this division, the AFC West in general, and you see the Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl for another time, the time is of the essence. You really don't have any set alone or let things settle moments. You have to get moving now because this is a competitive league. And it has, and EA can attest to this because he came in the league before I did. But even though when we both left, we saw it. It went from, being temporary 6 months on, 6 months off possibly to being a full 12-month league, 365 days league. And so one coach that I was very fond of told me, if you're not getting better, you're being passed by. So time is of the essence.
Yeah, for sure, Link. What are some of the building blocks you think of when you say Pete Carroll?
Well, you understand, you look at the history, the fact that the man has had a significant history, not only in the NFL, but have also had the success that they've talked about at SC, left a successful program in FC that was just putting guys in the league left and right, went up to Seattle and brought them their first championship, that city, that great sports town. So I'm happy for him and his career. I think he has a lot to offer because he's been there and he's done it. Look, if we look as recent as AP's coaching tenure, when he was in there with the Raiders, you saw him bring in Marv Levy and Tom Coughlin and guys that have been around the league, that have experience with the league, that know it. This is another step in that direction.
Lincoln, what I love also about Pete Carroll, and I knew this ahead of time, and you have such a big presence in the state of Washington, is his competition at practices. That was well known by everybody in the Seattle years, that you win a game on Sunday or Monday, you get your day off, and you come in, and it's competition. And they went after it hard. And you guys played in the league, and you know how hard it is to practice. And the league has evolved. There's not as much practice as there was when you guys played in the game. What do you think he'll do with the culture of practicing here to get even more out of Brock Bowers and Max Crosby and some of the elite players?
Well, one of the great positives that he has is that this is a very young team, what the Raiders have on roster now. Okay, so you don't have to worry about giving us older players days off, as some of the coaches that EA and I have experienced back in the day. You know, the younger players can go. But here's where the impression of coaching really comes out, guys. When you don't have the ability to strap on the pads and go at it to see what guys are really worth, you have to find a way to put them in position on game time when it's most important to find a way for them to win and be the most successful. That comes with creating a relationship, creating a bond from coach to player. More importantly, the coach knowing what the player's strengths and if there are limited weaknesses, what they are. Look, everybody's got talent. The Raiders have talent on this roster right now, so it's not completely devoid. But they need to find a coaching staff. They need to put together a premium plan that allows this team, whomever you put on the field, to win. And if it comes down to finding a way to practice creatively, so be it. I think you have to be more creative these days in the National Football League because the rules just weren't the same when EA and I played.
Yeah. To stay on that point, Link, what do you think are there any advantages to you that AP has left with this football team that's going to help Coach Pete get to that level of culture a little sooner?
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer because we've seen how many times players can affect coaching staffs. So it's really hard to generate, to put into perspective what Pete Carroll brings because the players don't know him. So what if players don't gel with him? Then they're probably going to want out. Then you have to overcome that. You see, there are so many things in this early stage that we don't know and how he's going to gel with the team. But a coach has to walk into the locker room, whomever he has sitting out there, and he has to win over people. Pete Carroll did that in this press conference, obviously, but he has to do that with this team in order for them to be successful.
Lincoln Kennedy joins us. You know, EA, we heard a lot about Michigan football and USC. Look behind that guy and look at all the Washington accolades and what he's been able to accomplish. With John Spytek, with the Tom Brady connection, it seems like that's why he's here. The Tom Brady's calling a lot of big shots. Clearly, this is Mark Davis's team, but that relationship, they talked about it a few times, being around him, which will help as Tom Brady's a minority owner here.
Look, I know for a fact that Mark Davis wants to win. EA wants to win. You guys want to win. John, look, JT, we all want to win, okay, yep. JT? We all want to win. We all want this organization to win. It's been down far and too long, and the fact that we look across the screen and you see somebody in our division that we played twice is back in the Super Bowl again, it leaves you hungry. So, yes, I don't care how we get there. Let's just find a way to get there.
Yeah. John, we're talking about competition, and competition's at all different levels. It's on the field level, it's in the weight room, and, of course, upstairs. And John has to be ready to compete with the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers. And that's not an easy task. But you like the fact that he started with a group with Philadelphia and ended with Tampa. Talk to us a little bit about players from those organizations.
Well, you look at it, and I think John made it clear when his press conference. He said the players that they drafted and they brought in into those teams, those organizations, a lot of them are still there. That shows a testament that he's been good at his job, and I don't think he would be here if he wasn't good at his job. So we'll see how far this influence, how it carries. But I've always had the mindset, EA and JT, that a general manager is supposed to listen to the head coach. If the head coach says, "Look, I need a cover two, Tampa 2 cover corner to play the right side," And the general manager goes to the scouting department, finds that guy, and tries to bring him in to make them more effective, because that's where the teamwork comes in the administrative part. So we're going to have to see how these two gentlemen who just got to know each other over the last couple of days find a way to work together in order to turn this thing around.
Lincoln, last one. There's been a lot of talk about quarterback. Period. And Aiden O'Connell's here, salary cap protected on a rookie deal. And if you look at what the Raiders have to do, there's some big dates coming up here. Of course, the Combine, the Senior Bowl going on now, free agency. I mean, this is big. And he knew it. They both said, we got to get to work. After this lunch downstairs and him coming up here, I have a feeling that they're going to be burning the oil all night here. But how important is it for you when it comes to the quarterback? Because we know how many good players are on this team on the defensive side who are injured, who should be able to come back, but you can only go as far as your quarterback in this league.
If you have a quarterback, you have a chance. And I'm not saying AOC is not a capable quarterback, but there's a system that has to be in place in order for him to show his strengths, not necessarily his weaknesses. But we live in my opinion, guys, we live in a time where a quarterback can extend plays with his legs. Those that have been mobile have been able to be successful. If you look at the 4 quarterbacks that were in the AFC, NFC championships, those were mobile quarterbacks. I know Patrick Mahomes is probably the least of them, but he finds a way to be creative, use his legs, and get out of the pocket and make plays. I think you have to do that. It's not the time of a statue quarterback in the pocket. And protections and schemes that I've seen around the league get those types of quarterbacks killed. So you got to either generate a system that protects that style of quarterback, if that's what you're going to do going forward, or you have to find someone to win. But you can't, if you don't have a quarterback, you're not going to be successful. You give a quarterback to need to win. You have to have a quarterback to win in this league.
Thank you, Lincoln. Appreciate it today, especially this quickly after the press conference. Thanks for doing this.
All right, my man.
My pleasure, guys. See you guys.
The great Lincoln Kennedy. He's right about that. Quarterback is one of those things we're going to get into the rest of the way. When we come back, Jason Horowitz will join us, the voice of the Raiders, and then we're going to knock down a couple of big interviews along the way, and we're excited to be here today. It's a new day in the Raider Nation, and the new leaders of this organization, including some new minority owners, a new head coach, and a GM. We're going to cover it all right here, and I'm excited about this because days like today, take advantage of the format.
That's right.
As I like to say. So keep it here on all platforms, Raider Nation Radio, and everywhere else where you follow the Raiders.
My name's Liz Gresham, and I'm from both the Bay Area and Las Vegas. What drew me was the whole atmosphere that we've traveled, all around to experience the Raiders in other countries. We bring the Raider fandom to the other countries. When they said they're coming to Vegas, we're like, sign us up. We bought a house. I have a Raider villa. The house is Raidered out. Everything goes with silver and black. I mean, it's great. There's only one nation, and just the camaraderie of all of the fans and the people. Let's go, boys, let's go. It's just the whole big picture of what it means to be a Raider fan.
It's game day, the day we've been waiting for. And this is more than just a game. It's a passion, a lifestyle. It's time to suit up, Raider Nation. This is Raiders football, where we all bleed silver and black. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Here at the Raider Image, you're part of our team. Every hat, every piece of gear. Let your loyalty show out. Whether you're in the stands or cheering from home, we've got your back. Feel the confidence, own the game. We are the Raider Image. Your game, your gear. Exclusively at the Raider Image.
Breaking news, the Raiders have a new general manager coming.
The Las Vegas Raiders are hiring John Spytek as their new general manager. Breaking news into First Take, Adam Schefter tweeted moments ago, Pete Carroll and the Raiders now have reached an agreement on a 3-year deal.
Pete Carroll's the coach to go build up the Raiders.
This is a great move.
Pete Carroll, silver and black.
Pete Carroll's back.
It ain't ever over. It ain't ever over.
He's got Brock Bowers to work with in the future. He's got Max Crosby under contract.
Their new general manager, it is John Spytek.
He is incredibly qualified.
He's got him. He's got him. Yeah!
Pete Carroll brings to the Raiders something they desperately need, that jolt, that kick in the ass.
Welcome into a special edition of Raider Nation Radio. JT, along with the finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Eric Allen. Whenever there's a brand new head coach and a GM, it's a celebration today in Raider Nation. A lot to take care of today, but an exciting time in the building.
It is exciting. I think the energy level needs to be up because Coach Pete has that energy, and you know he's going to be all about it on day one.
You go back with him, you know his history. Obviously, we're going to talk, and you get into what this means for this organization going forward. A tremendous legacy football coach with a lot of big wins, college and pro, who's touched a lot of coaches and players in this league.
Yeah, a lot of respect for Coach Pete, and it starts. I was on many football teams that he was the head coach standing on that sideline when I was on the football field playing. So to get ready for his football teams, you know they're going to be very disciplined, going to be a defense that was sound defensively, offensively, really played complementary football, ran the ball particularly well. But one thing about Coach Pete is you know that the practice level has to be on point. That's the one thing you take away from a Pete Carroll football team. And then this amazing run at USC and all the tremendous players that he was able to bring in, and those players were able to take that college experience and really be effective and impactful on the pro level.
Well, the voice of the Raiders is kind enough to join us, Jason Horowitz. And Jason, welcome in, and Pete Carroll and John Spytek. A big day for Raider Nation here, getting an accomplished head coach with a lot of victories. How do you see it?
Well, certainly that's a big part, right? I think people are really excited because, you know, Pete Carroll is one of 3 people who has ever won a college national championship and a Super Bowl. Reality is they were one bad play call away from winning back-to-back Super Bowls. And I think the other thing too, JT, when you think about Pete Carroll, he's kind of got a swagger. He's going to become the oldest head coach in the history of the NFL week 1, but he's like really cool. And like, you know, and I say that like that's not important in the realm of like wins and losses and how this team's going to be for a few years. But the reality is his players have reacted well to him, whether it was in college, the NFL before college, and then obviously his time with the Seattle Seahawks for almost a decade and a half. And he came in right away, JT, and Seattle didn't have as many long bad years before he got there as the Raiders have. So that's a little bit different. But he came in, and in his first 11 seasons, they went to the playoffs 9 times. And that's a big deal, right? And people are going to talk about Russell Wilson and the development of a mid-round quarterback, but it's not just the quarterback position that he developed. There's a lot of great defensive players that he and John Schneider, who came in with him in Seattle, built together, and they built up for a long time.
Yeah, how do you really build a football team when you're coming in? First of all, you got to get the players. The other aspect is the assistant coaches. And Coach Pete has been around some really, really strong candidates at defensive on the coaching staff and offensively also. I think that's the one area that we're all excited to see who he's going to build out on the staff, correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, a lot of people have thrown the name Darrell Bevell around, right? Darrell was his offensive coordinator for almost the entire first half of his tenure there in Seattle. He was the OC, I want to say his second season under Pete Carroll in 2011 for 6 years. And that's really where that time really started to build, where they were, you know, Russell Wilson and kind of some receivers that they made into big name guys, even though they weren't like big time flashy guys. Tight ends were important there. Obviously, you know about Marshawn Lynch and their running game. They had some great offensive linemen early that became a problem later on in his career, but he's a name that people have thrown around. And he's been with the Dolphins the last couple of years. And when Tua is healthy, the Dolphins offense can be explosive. So there's a lot, I think, there. I am certainly intrigued by that. And here, one of the other reasons, EA, that I'm intrigued about who they're going to bring in as OC and defensive coordinator is, you know, a lot of people are focused on 2 things with Pete Carroll. Number 1 is his success, and number 2 is his age. But the other thing that I think people are focused on with Pete Carroll is he's pretty opposite of what everyone was talking about with regards to Ben Johnson. A younger, never been a head coach, full on, oh, let's go excited offensive play caller. This is kind of the opposite of that. So I think one of the things people are wondering is when you bring in Pete Carroll, are you also thinking about him and the guys that are going to work with him, hopefully for a few years, to then have a succession plan in place? I'm not worried about that. And I don't think anybody in Raider Nation should be worried about that, because it has been so long since this team has been competitive on a year in, year out basis. They shouldn't worry about 5 years from now. Let's worry about the next 2 years, and that's it.
Jason Horowitz joins us. This is important because, again, he knows everyone in the league. He can build out a staff, unlike other coaches that don't know the length of connections that Pete Carroll has. But I want to get into his enthusiasm and what he's going to bring into an organization, and especially a locker room where most of the guys are in their early to mid-20s. And here's a guy who comes in who's bouncing off the wall. Everybody's talking about that around here already. That's something important because I think the lifeblood of this organization is a coach, because they've had great coaches in this organization who brings professionalism but energy to take this team up on game day.
Well, we did have a coach that had energy the last year and a half, right? I mean, Antonio Pierce certainly was an energy guy. But Antonio Pierce didn't have the history and the success that Pete Carroll does. So I think you combine those two things when you bring in Pete Carroll. I've gotten to know Pete a little bit. My mentor when I first came out of college and started working at CBS was a gentleman named Pat Kerwin, who was with the Jets for a long time. He also was with the Buccaneers early in his career and has been on NFL radio with Sirius for 2 decades. And he knows front office for a very long time. He knows the ins and outs, but he and Pete Carroll are very good friends. So I've gotten to know Pete a little bit, and everything you just described, JT, is Pete Carroll to a T. That energy is real. But more than that, his relationships with his players are real. Are there some guys that jive with it differently than others? Of course there are. We're all human. That's normal. But everything you've ever heard about Pete Carroll in a practice, and whether it's at USC or at Seattle, it's all real and accurate. And I'm very excited to see what that looks like when we get going in May and June and then camp.
Yes, I'm very excited to see that part of Pete Carroll on the football field, chewing the gum, getting everybody excited. Let's talk about the identification. We've talked about that so many times after the football games. Like when you see the Raiders play, who were they? What was their identity? What do you think Coach Pete's going to have for this Raiders football team as far as the identity is concerned on the defense side of the ball?
Well, listen, you think about what Seattle, how they were built. And I know everyone talks about Russell Wilson, and understandably so. But they were built by mid-round, hard-hitting linebackers with some really good guys in the secondary. Bigger, right? Remember, they were called the Legion of Boom. And then they threw in some good passers. There was a lot of times when they were really good, they were up towards the top in the NFL in sacks. And they did it with some guys that you didn't expect it to be. And that is kind of how they built their team. You think of Bobby Wagner wasn't a first-round pick. He's still playing for that matter with Washington, but he was a second-round pick. Richard Sherman was a 4th or a 5th-round pick. KJ Wright was really good for a long time, and I think he was either a late 3rd or a 4th-round pick. And that's how they built their team early in his career, and those guys were there for 7, 8, 9 years. Cam Chan, other guys, right? Those bigger safeties, So I think you start thinking about that. Now the Raiders have some of those parts in place, right? Obviously, Max Crosby is the heart. I bet he and Pete Carroll are going to hit it off really well. And I hope Robert Spillane. We got a lot of free agents that we have to sign. We have talked about that now for almost an entire calendar year. That this defense has a lot of those guys, and we'll see if they fit into what Pete Carroll and whoever his DC are going to be, and John Spytek, the new general manager. We'll see if those are the guys they want to go with, or if they want to bring in a totally new defense, because they are going to have a lot of money to work with. And I think that's the other thing. This is going to be built in that image, but it's going to be a defense that's going to fly to the football. It is going to be a defense that I think is going to hit you really hard. And I think Raiders fans are going to be really excited about it.
I look at this team and who they have, as you just said. Christian Wilkins is a cornerstone piece here. He's one of the best players in the league. He's coming off an injury. Clearly, Max. I'm going to assume Spillane's going to be here. We'll see how that plays out. And there's other players in the secondary that have proven that they're under consideration to be here. But Pete Carroll's team's been known for their defense and special teams. And special teams, that all gets figured out with who makes the roster and who's going to be on special teams. But this defense has got to be more relentless and better. And you mentioned Antonio Pierce. He had that defense ready to go every game last year. And to see, no matter what they do with the coaching staff and building out the defensive side, we all expect Pete Carroll's defense to be the signature aspect of this team. And I love what you said, the Legion of Boom. Those guys hit. They came downhill. They were violent. And, as you used the word earlier, swagger. Those guys, Jason, all had swagger when they played.
Yeah. I got to meet Richard Sherman this year. We were in Kansas City, and the game was on Amazon Prime, remember, on Black Friday, and Lincoln and I were in the hotel and went over to those guys who were doing the set, and, he's got it now, and he's just talking about football. He's not even playing it, right? And, it was, he quickly in his NFL career became someone that became a face of a defense and was outstanding. And so, I think the Raiders are going to have to identify who those guys are on the defensive side of the ball. But JT, let's make no mistake about it, right? Whether we're talking about Pete Carroll or who his offensive coordinator is, or what John Spytek's got to deal with as the general manager, this team has to have an offense, right? We had a defense this year, and I know statistically we gave up towards the bottom 5 in the NFL in points allowed. But it wasn't because of the defense. It was because of the turnovers and the offense's inability to move the football. And the defense is in place to be good and successful again next year. The question is, will the offense be at least somewhat complementary, and this team will then be successful? And that is what we're going to find out here in the next 2 months, right? We got free agency starting in 5-6 weeks? The Senior Bowl's this week. We got the draft coming up in 3 months. And then we'll see. But there's a quarterback conversation to be had. There's some offensive line issues that need to be addressed. I have no doubt there's going to be a new running back in the room, and I have no doubt that there's going to be some new weapons on the outside of the room. That's going to be the philosophy and the thing that has to be discussed over the course of the next 3 months.
Yeah, the foundational piece of all football teams, it seems like, is the quarterback, not the cornerback. And
well, listen, I would disagree, Mr. Soon-to-be. Hopefully, we hope all Hall of Famer.
Yes, hope so. Yeah, I tell you, and that's the foundational piece of a franchise. And whether you go free agency and get a young guy developed, or you try and head up in the draft, I'm not sure what's going to happen in that aspect. But obviously, what do you think this offense is going to look like with the building block of Brock Bowers starting from that point?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to figure out a way to make sure he's the centerpiece again. Jackson Powers-Johnson was named to the all-rookie team. I think DJ Glaze played really well, not as consistently as I think you'd hope, but he wasn't expecting to start as many games as he did at right tackle. So I think they have some building blocks there. But, you've heard Lincoln say it all throughout the season, my partner Lincoln Kennedy, that the offensive line needs to gel a little bit better. They need some better pieces. And Pete Carroll is not going to have an offense that finishes dead last in the NFL in running the football. And this offense, I want to say 6 of the last 9 games or 7 of the last 9 games did not reach 75 yards on the ground. That is not going to happen. And maybe that just means that Marshawn Lynch is our offensive coordinator. And maybe, I don't know. Maybe we just need beast mode and Allegiant Stadium will rock like they did up there in Seattle during that playoff game to have a magnitude earthquake, But the quarterback part of this, we don't know what it's going to be, right? Gardner's coming off the broken collarbone. He does have 1 more year. I think it's up in the air whether he's back with the team. Aiden's still on his rookie deal. But we all expect that it's going to be someone else in that room, or maybe 2 other someone else's in that room, because I think everyone assumes that quarterback position is going to look very different, whether it is a top of the first round draft pick or whether it is someone who's a veteran in this league that they bring in to be the next starter.
Last one, Raider Nation is not happy for Kansas City going for a 3-peat. I can tell you that. And happy for you.
Gross.
Your birds are there. But this is an interesting moment as Pete Carroll comes here. Because, Jason, he could walk out on the field. I've been talking about this even before he got hired. And look Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton, and Andy Reid in the eyes and said, I beat all of you. And he did. Yeah. And that's what I love about this move here, because he's got a track record of winning against the gentleman that'll be coaching against in the AFC West. And unfortunately for the former coaches that did a really good job and wanted to be here a long time, Pete Carroll has got that reputation, and that's what Raider Nation's counting on.
Yes. And look, the reality for Pete Carroll is his last 3 years in Seattle didn't go the way that I think the Seahawks had become accustomed, and that's why he was let go as head coach after 14 seasons. but they didn't. Like Bill Belichick at the end fell off a cliff, right? The Patriots were as bad as there were in the NFL. That didn't happen in Seattle. His last 2 years, they were above 500. They were 9-8, but they weren't winning 10-11-12, 10-11-12, right? And I want to say in his entire time in Seattle, Pete Carroll had 2 losing seasons. And I think both of those losing seasons, they had 7 wins. There was no 3-win. There was no 5-win. They were at a minimum close to 500 and most of the time winning. So we all know what that means. And that goes against, JT, the guys you were just talking about, right? Sean Payton was with New Orleans with Drew Brees, and he was going head-to-head with him. And obviously Jim Harbaugh with the Niners and Pete Carroll, they have a long history, right? The USC, Stanford, and then what happened in the NFL, and that'll be fun to watch twice. And, Andy Reid's a Hall of Famer. So we got all of that right there. But they've got Mahomes and Herbert and what the Broncos think is an up-and-comer and Bo Nix, who had a really, really, really good rookie season. And we don't have that yet. So that has to change.
Jason, thanks for kicking it off. Appreciate it.
My man.
Exciting day. Thanks for doing this.
It'll be a fun day. Let's go.
You got it. Jason Horowitz, the voice of the Raiders. And as he said, this is a time where all the coaches in that AFC West all know each other, and Pete Carroll will put a staff together, John Spytek, to try to get the best coaches in the room here so they can elevate the team quickly.
That's important. That's an important question. Is about when you line up with that coach on the opposing side, do you have an opportunity?
Yeah.
Have you beat him before? And now we can say yes.
All right, coming up next, we're going to have the head coach of the Silver and Black, Pete Carroll, is going to join us live in studio. How excited are we for that? Stay tuned as we continue on a very special edition of Raider Nation Radio.
We have a problem. What's up? Where you mic'd up? I know that. Yeah. I'm mic'd up. I'm mic'd up. I told y'all in the group I was mic'd up. Did I not say I work for the federal government today?
Why didn't Oregon send me the Grinches, huh? Why didn't Oregon send me the little green cleats?
I hope we get a flyover. I love a flyover, Coach. I hope we get a flyover.
I bet you probably still watch Blues.
Deep breath, kid. You got this. You're meant to be here.
I forgot how humid it is down here. I can't hardly breathe. I'm all right, though. Big dog.
Hey! Good job, boy. Hey.
Babyface gangster, huh? Man, love, baby. I'm old as fuck. Old and heavy. Whoa! You ain't snapping it! You ain't snapping it! 2, 3, yeah!
You're him.
That was a dime.
I know.
That was a dime.
It almost got picked up.
No.
It was close. Watch
it.
Jackson to throw. Bateman there. It's batted up in the air. And Spillane's got it with a pick. He's back up on his feet, and he's racing. Well, they haven't blown it dead. No, they have blown it dead. But he picked it off on the deflection. And Spillane, who had 3 picks last year, with the Raiders first taker.
Go be Thanos.
Hey. It's game day. The day we've been waiting for. And this is more than just a game. It's a passion, a lifestyle. It's time to suit up, Raider Nation. This is Raiders football, where we all bleed silver and black. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Here at the Raider Image, you're part of our team. Every hat, every piece of gear. Let your loyalty show out. Whether you're in the stands or cheering from home, we've got your back. Feel the confidence, own the game.
We
are the Raider Image. Your game, your gear. Exclusively at the Raider Image.
With the 13th pick, the Las Vegas Raiders select Brock Bowers, tight end, Georgia.
What has allowed you to transition so easily to the NFL?
I mean, it was a little bit like that the first couple weeks. I feel like everything's kind of moving fast. It means a lot having all that trust from the coaches and the other guys on the team, just to go out there and do my thing. So, I mean, it's been fun for all of us. Nothing else matters except for just focusing week to week and game to game.
It's caught here. Bowers on the fly.
Bowers down the sideline. A lot of room. Bowers shoved out of bounds.
You only see these one-hand catches. He having across the middle. Ain't fearing nothing. Cross traffic like this.
It's caught. Good hands by Brock Bowers to bring that one in.
You have the Las Vegas Raiders who have hired John Spytek. This is a big hire, an expected hire.
Pete Carroll and the Raiders now have reached an agreement on a 3-year deal with a 4th-year option to become the Raiders head coach.
They need stability, they need culture, and Pete provides that.
I like it. He's a proven commodity.
His energy is contagious. The way he goes about doing his thing, we all recognize and understand. He's going to bring a positivity, a competitive mindset.
He has shown that he can really change an organization and really, turn an organization around into winning.
He's obviously an outstanding coach. He was an outstanding coach on the collegiate level. He's an outstanding coach on the pro level. He's experienced.
Are the Raiders better today than they were yesterday? And the answer is yes.
Welcome back to Raider Nation Radio. An exciting day. Pete Carroll, the head coach, is going to join us here in a few moments. JT with Eric Allen. Nice view there, drone footage there, huh? As the place is popping today.
A little cold outside today, JT. A little cold out there today.
Even for the San Diego guy, you a little bit cold out there.
Well, man. I left home. It was almost 7 degrees.
There you go. Well, we're looking forward to talking to the coach and a couple other guests coming up here. Appreciate everybody tuning in on all the platforms here. Exciting. The press conference went very well because you saw John Spytek, the GM, and the head coach work together, and they were asked a number of questions by the media there about how they're going to do this, and it was all about being a unit and doing everything together, including the ownership, everyone involved.
Yeah, they killed it. Great press conference. I think all the questions that were answered, they provided enough information about who they were and where they were coming from and what they want for the future of this organization. It was right there. The main points I kind of pulled out was obviously competitiveness, loving the game, the relationships that these guys have had over the course of their careers, really important for them to continue to build. And there's always a question, what are you doing as a head coach when you have a year off? And I think Coach Pete did a really great job of explaining exactly what he did to be able to get prepared for this moment.
Yeah, and before he comes up here, I thought it was interesting he said retaining some coaches.
Yeah.
Because as you know, you've been around the league a long time as a great player. Coaches move around, and they move around quickly, and they think they're going to be in a spot for 2, 3, 4 years. Something changes. Well, when the head coach is let go, that doesn't mean the entire staff is let go, because sometimes coaches leave and go to another team. That isn't the case here with Antonio Pierce. So a lot of the coaches are probably looking to stick around, or they'll have an option to go to some other teams along the way.
Yeah. One I would look to is what positions do you continue to see develop and get better? Those are the position coaches that will probably stay around.
Coach.
All right,
welcome.
Coach,
Look
my guy.
All right.
Good to see you,
Coach.
Coach.
Good
to see you.
Pleasure. Good to see you.
Where do you want me?
Please join us right here. Head coach Pete Carroll joins us straight off the press conference. And, Coach, fantastic down there. And as we begin, just tell us how excited you are, your wife, your family. You mentioned your grandkids. What a special day.
Kind of low-key in it, hanging out. Oh, that's a freaking blast to be here. Gosh, for being a Bay Area kid to have a chance to connect with the Raiders, man, it's a big deal, to me and personally. My family doesn't even know all of that connections and how deep that runs, but to represent and Mark and his pops and the whole thing, to me, holy mackerel, it's amazing to me. So I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, a lot of hope and optimism from Raider Nation, obviously.
I hope so.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about first. You have any Al Davis stories?
Well, it was just the impression that he left. He was such a stud, man. He was so far ahead of his time. He was an innovator. He was willing to take the tough stance. Look what he created. He created this following, and it was his mentality, his vision for it.
and he was tough as hell, and so it's his foundational thoughts that he's shared over the years, just win, baby, and all the things that he's built around this program still exist. That's why we have such a great following. Now we need to reward them. We need to kick it back to them and let them have the fun so they can really get crazy.
Coach, you talked a lot about history and this team and this organization. I'm happy you mentioned Mr. Davis, but the new ownership group, Tom Brady, as you talked about that, I was fascinated how in-depth you were. You just met these guys over a couple of days. Maybe you knew some longer than that. What was that like getting around with the ownership, especially Mark?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. Well, first of all, it's through over time. I mean, Tom, we've been battling for years and all of that. So the respect that I have for him and knowing what he stood for, and then to see him come back, and he's going to be part of this organization, part of the football part of this thing. But then in the interview process and also doing my research on the guys that are the owners of this thing, Egon Durbin this is a remarkable talent that he's part of this program. And Michael Meldman and the success he's had, and Tom Wagner, the success that they've had, is a group that is assembled. It's like Ocean's 11, it's like, we come marching, here we go, it's something. And so it's rare. It's rare to feel the energy from them, and they're really excited about it as well. But they have a vision for how we want this to go, and Mark captured that. He just, in putting this together, that when Tom came back to me, my whole picture changed of what this organization is all about and where they're going, and I was hoping I could get involved with the thing. And then to meet those guys, we sat all morning with the guys, again, just to keep working through stuff and hear each other's thoughts and kind of our dreams and expectations and standards. We're matching up now because everybody's freaking competing their butt off, man. And if you're doing that, then you're okay with me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I think nowadays we talk so much about your philosophy and how you've turned programs around, and the most important thing is what tree you came from. I think you may be your own tree, So,
well, I've been kind of, you guys are still going to try to figure out what's he doing? Why is he doing it the way he's doing it? Well,
talk to us a little bit about that.
How come the season thinks this way? I do think that the source of finding the uniqueness of who you are is really important. And somewhere along the way, when I left New England after screwing up a couple times, it came to me and it hit me that I need to put my act in order here and get my get my stuff right. Yeah. and in doing that, I discovered how to go about it to best represent who I am as a competitor. And so the central theme in the program is competition. You're either competing or you're not. We're in a relentless pursuit of finding the competitive edge in everything we're doing. It goes on and on and on. And that being able to find a way to transfer that information to my staff and then to the players has really been what's made us unique to a certain degree. And we don't do stuff like everybody else. And matter of fact, let's go back to a Bay Area reference. Jerry Garcia said one time, you remember that we were talking about?
Yes, sir.
You don't want to be the best ones doing something. You want to be the only ones doing it. Well, that's to me has always stuck in my brain, so if we go our own path, we'll take our Raider fans with us, along the way, and hopefully we can build a really good club here in soon, quick order.
Yeah, Coach, I want to get to a timeline because, as you said, I'm intrigued about your year off. I was really locked in to how you talked about watching JV football, your son who's a coach at UW. I'm looking at all of this, and it seems like it was so productive, you teaching that class, which you mentioned now. So this year seemed to be a really important one in your career.
Yeah, the last time I took a year off, like I said, was the year after New England when I got let go there, and the next thing that happened was USC, and to me it was unveiling a philosophy that it took that year to figure that out. So I went about this year with the thought, let's see how far we can take it this time, and see if we can make another big single year when you step away from the game. I'm pretty jacked up to unveil it now, man. I can't wait because I have seen things. I've seen it's almost like the Beautiful Mind thing. You can see the rhythms of the game played at all different levels where there's a commonality to it that sometimes we could have been way better in touch with the reality of what we need to do. And so it's been really an exciting year, and I've had a blast, watching my grandkids play and do their thing. But it's really exciting for me to here we are. We have a chance. We got a chance to do it.
It's funny this year, the experience you have, and we've seen a lot of football. it's kind of come back to like the late 90s. The running game is back in trend. Competitive football on both sides, complementary football. What do you think has happened this year opposed to some of the other years where it's all about
to me, it's
receiver?
not like it came back because it never left to me. I mean, that's the game. That's how the game should be played. And it's not because you want to just be physical, which we love, and run the football and be tough. It's not just because of that. It's because the foundation of this game is about winning by playing great ball. And the best players don't always win. The teams that play the best usually do, though. And so it's how you put that all together. And the quarterback position is so unbelievably overblown about because there's only a few guys that are the great ones, and they can change the game, but there's not very many guys like that. But you can still be highly successful and productive in building your team around the game that allows the quarterback to manage his aspect of it. And that's, if you run it, then you can play past it. If you can play past it, then you can strike him down the field. You can create the big plays that you want to create. And you can complement the defense. You can take care of the football better. On and on and on. There's so much to it, so, but it's really warms my heart to see it, so that you see it as you just expressed. That boy, it's come back to running the football. Look at the clubs that are, look what Danny Campbell's done. He had a great run to get this thing going there, and you see that the Chiefs are still, and he's still committed and stuck on. We're going to keep on controlling that football. Those long drives that they're capable of is the function and execution of the game, really built around the ability to run it. The Eagles are probably the most obvious demonstration of it because Saquon's so out of this world. Yeah. But look what's happened to the quarterback. Hurt hasn't had to do that much.
Right.
It's been easier for him. That's the whole point. The job is so challenging and so hard. We want to build around that position so that it isn't the critical issue that you can't win with. That's not. And I'll take it one step further. You got me all fired up. When we had the competition back in the day when Matt Flynn and Tavares Jackson, you don't remember that guy, and
yes,
Russell Wilson entered in.
Yeah.
We had a three-way shot at who was going to be the starter then, and we built the program to a point where we thought we had a chance to whoever the best guy won would take it over. Well, Russell won that job in the Kansas City preseason game. He won the job, and we didn't look back. And he comes out. The first 10 years of his career, he wins 104 games in 10 years. You know who's won more? Peyton Manning. He won 105. And so, and look at the exchange, the different ends of the spectrum of those two players, but by building a team around a guy, he could find his excellence, and he did, and he's created a great history for himself. So that's an illustration, example of what it is, so can't wait to get it rolling.
Coach, last one, the fans, because you got Allegiant Stadium. This building is incredible. As you see, isn't it amazing?
I haven't seen the stadium yet. I can't wait.
I can't wait for you to see that because you're going to walk around there for hours. But your message to the fans, you talked about season ticket holders. Let's sell it out. Let's get it back to the old black hole, silver and black and all that. These fans want to hear from you today on what you think the future is for the silver and black.
Let me take you back for a second on that one. When we went to USC, I think that there had never been a season where they had a sellout in the Coliseum. We had 5 years in a row when we were there. Every freaking seat was sold. Well, we need to make it hard and make those ticket prices skyrocket to the people from out of town because nobody will give them their tickets.
That's right.
And they'll be battling those sit outside the stadium instead of sitting inside the stadium. So it's filled with our guys because the Raider fans are ridiculous, and they have been. This is not ringing the bell for the first time. They've been like that for years, and the old Coliseum was amazing to be in. It was an amazing place, but it was just formulating back in those days, But it's carried on and sustained. Where this is one of the most coveted franchises in professional sports because of that connection. So they need to be rewarded. We need to give it back, but they need to do their part too. They need to come out and roar this at our opponents and not let them be able to think straight and to give us that advantage. So we're all in this together, and I don't mind telling you that I'm recruiting them too. And so well, I know I got to put the product together. I get that, and I'll try to do my part, but we'll need them too, and we'll earn their respect along the way.
Coach, thank you. All the best.
Hey, all right, guys.
Pete Carroll, head coach of the Silver and Black, will return on Raider Nation Radio.
This is how we hang out in Vegas, man. Presented by MGM Rewards. This is so cool for MGM Resorts to give us access to the Cosmopolitan Las Vegas wraparound suite. This is nice.
One of a kind, man.
Welcome to the High Roller Challenge. There are 20 Raider shields hidden throughout this room. Whoever finds the most shields wins.
Hey, it's a win and lose. I got you.
I'm so good. Look at this.
Look at there.
2. Got 2. I'm not even gonna let him know how much I have. I'm putting it in my pocket.
I
don't even know why I'm breathing so heavy.
Let's do it. You ready?
1, 2.
He's still going.
4, 5.
That's 10 total.
9.
Me, you ain't got no 9. That man got 5.
Good, you won, man. Good job. Appreciate it. This is really good hanging out at the Cosmopolitan.
Oh, anytime you need to be humble, let me know.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me. All right, I lost.
You ain't got no 9.
500-plus yards through, 7-8 games for him as a rookie. I mean, that's damn good right there. I mean, he's one of the most accountable tight ends in the league right now. The guy in the pass game is absolutely killing it.
I mean, Brock Bowers, I was a big fan of him. The guy's a winner. The guy's a playmaker.
Brock Bowers just passed Jerry Rice for the most receptions by a Raider in the first 11 games of a season.
He's got his man at the 5, into the end zone. Touchdown, Brock Bowers. 33 yards. Brock in his prime in the end zone.
I feel like he's on track, to be better than myself.
Bowers jump ball at the 35. Touchdown, Raiders.
It's game day. The day we've been waiting for. And this is more than just a game. It's a passion, a lifestyle. It's time to suit up, Raider Nation. This is Raiders football, where we all bleed silver and black. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. Here at the Raider Image, you're part of our team. Every hat, every piece of gear. Let your loyalty show out. Whether you're in the stands or cheering from home, we've got your back. Feel the confidence, own the game.
We
are the Raider Image. Your game, your gear. Exclusively at the Raider Image.
This group's a lot of fun. We've been together, like I said, 3 years now. When we started, we were very, very young. We know exactly what everybody's going to do. And obviously, it's turned into success on the field, that relationship that we all have.
Everything worked out in our favor. I feel like our chemistry getting together, the defense stopping Moapa. It means a lot to me, especially my senior year, coming on, being in the showcase. But I wouldn't be able to do this without my quarterback throwing me the ball, having the chemistry with her. Catching, blocking, everything was working out perfectly fine. Everything was good.
Don't stay in here. Don't stay in here.
Welcome back. We're at headquarters, Raider Nation, here on Raider Nation Radio. JT along with Eric Allen. Thanks to Pete Carroll, who just joined us. And when he came out and we went to break and everybody here got a chance to meet him, you could tell that this is someone special. And what a message he had to the fans. I mean, He needs the fans all engaged right now, and I think you're going to get that.
I do too. And what Pete is he is him. He's the kind of guy who's obviously going to be on point and right up front, direct to you. He's a great guy, loves football, and that's kind of what he's about. And that's what this fan base is going to get.
I'm excited to talk to John Spytek when we talk to other guests throughout the course of this day and to see what's going to happen next, because the schedule is pretty imposing on what has to happen here to turn this football team around. You know you got the coach. You know you got the coach, potential Hall of Fame coach. John Spytek has got a nice resume coming in. But the fact that they're going to work together and they got to get going here relatively quickly after the Super Bowl to decide who they're going to keep and who they're going to draft. And what John said at the press conference was the enormous amount of players. I think he said 44 out of the 53 that were drafted or undrafted that came into that organization. Most GMs want to do that. He did as an assistant GM.
Yeah, it's really incredible and important that these two are on the same page early. And they have to find a way that both of where they've been, the experiences, will be able to help them make these decisions that are so important. And, like, we need to get on the move. Like, the free agency and the draft, all this stuff, combine, player evals from your own team, that stuff is happening, like, right now. So he has to kind of put together that part of it to get the assistant coaches and then be able to teach these guys the way that they want this organization to go, right now. And the team that we have to beat that's in our division is going to be playing in a couple weeks in the biggest game on earth. So it's a lot to have to deal with, but I think these guys are both up for the job.
Well, I thought one of the good things Tom Telesco did is he left the program a lot of money to go out there, what they want to do. They have to sign some players here. We got an understanding of the players that are most important that have to be the priority. But I think there's going to be, and this is just me being around here a little bit, they're going to inject a lot of new players into this program. You're going to see some players and some former coaches that were involved with Pete Carroll and John Spytek that are going to try to turn the record around quickly. But free agency is interesting because I think this is a very attractive place for free agents to come to. I said that when they broke ground here in Southern Nevada, that you were going to have no state taxes. Football players love that. They're going to play here. Everything's brand new still in the building, in the facility. And they got to get to work to figure out who are those free agents that will have the biggest impact, EA.
And that's important because when you're talking about, we were thinking about being a free agent and having this as a destination with Pete Carroll as your head coach, knowing that you're coming into a division that has, three of the other, best coaches around right now. If you want to compete and if you want to, compete with the best, this is the place to be. And that's really important to understand. All of the other things outside of the actual playing football are great. The city, the facilities, the football team, the fan base, all that stuff is amazing. We have to find one of these guys and a couple of these guys. You talk about the receiver. Of course, we've been hearing T's name for years now, but those are important players to be able to fill in some spots. And it's just not the name, as you heard today and all day long. You have to be the kind of guy who's going to come in and want to practice and want to be at the best in your practices, challenging the other guys. So that's going to be critically important. Which 25 guys on this list, how many of these guys are willing to put in the work and practice and compete? And that's what's important. I've been in a situation like that before where you're on the practice field and you're covering Jerry Rice, and Jerry wants to take 5 or 6 more reps after practice. You got to be willing to go on and be able to perform in practice. The competition in those days, going against Tim Brown and me and Wood, going against those guys, that made us better.
Yeah.
And when you got to the game on Sunday, Sundays were a lot easier because we're competing with just the utmost on those Wednesdays and Thursdays.
So those who are watching on our viewing platform just saw 25 names. For those on radio, from T. Higgins to Sam Darnold to some of the receivers and defensive backs who are out there, it's just important that you just all know from today, like any coach, they want to win instantly. But Pete Carroll means it. He wants to turn this around. He's not looking at this 5 years out.
Right.
He kept saying he wants to get this program going early. And I think some of that's going to have to do with free agency. I'm excited about the draft because the Raiders have a lot of draft equity.
Yeah.
So the Raiders at number 6 overall can trade up easily. They're going to have to give something up, but they can from number 6 better than they could. And last year they got Brock Bowers at 13, one of the greatest picks in the history of the modern NFL so far. I'll go out on a limb there. But if they want to get a quarterback, they'll be able to move up and get him. And if they want a quarterback in free agency, because Pete Carroll and John Spytek, like a veteran at this point where this organization is, I'm confident they'll be able to find one.
I think so. That's really important. And we're talking about finding someone to lead this football team so we can win right now. And you heard a lot today about building a team around the quarterback. So the quarterback position, although we understand it's important, but it's a piece to the 22 guys, 25 guys who are playing a lot. You're not standalone and you're just counting on him to win every single ball game. You have a team around him. And I thought that was a really important issue today. So you can go out and get a good free agent and then find a quarterback that you hope can develop in your system and be the kind of player who can really reach his highest points with a strong foundation around him. And I think those are the keys today that I saw both the GM, John, and Coach Pete talk about today. And if you're viewing this on the screen is all the top prospects in the draft this year. You know, it starts off with Carter, edge guy, and of course, Travis Hunter, the premier player, the Heisman Trophy winner who's playing receiver, corner, all the way down to offensive lineman, all through the draft. So you got to find areas where these players, first round guy, obviously you want him to have that impact. Not going to have the impact we had this year with our first rounder, but you want to try and find players in the first 2 rounds who are having an impact on your football team and at the end of the year making your team better.
Well, that's really important because Tom Telesco was able to get Brock Bowers, DJ Glaze, and Jackson Powers-Johnson.
Yes.
They all seem to be players that are going to be here in this program going forward. Aiden O'Connell is under contract, and we know what Aiden can do. Aiden's done a lot. He's been through different coaches, injuries, schemes, and all that, and he's handled it well. But I love the fact that as we're looking at John Spytek's tenure in Tampa Bay, if you're watching this, I'll just read off some of the names for radio. Chris Godwin, Vita Vea. I mean, look, Devin White, Tristan Wirfs, Antoine Winfield, one of the best players in the second round. And then you look later on, Bucky Irving last year. What a year he had. And the Raiders are going to need a new running back, at least one, maybe 2 there. So this is notable what John Spytek was able to do as assistant GM. And I love the fact how he talked about being a passionate scout. When he got to Detroit, all he wanted to do was look at film and become a scout, and he was able to do that and had a very nice run with Tampa Bay over the last 9 years.
You like that because there's a diversity of positions, so it's just not a guy who's really skilled, maybe at the skill position guy. You know, hey, I have a really good idea of what a receiver is like. I have a really good idea what a running back is like. But you've seen on the screen there's a good diversity of tight ends, receivers, cornerbacks, safeties, offensive linemen. That tells me a lot about your foundation when you're picking a player. It's not just the skill set that he has. Maybe it's the mental approach and how he approaches the game, how he processes the game. Obviously, we all go back to relationships and the love of the game. And I think if those are the building blocks of who you're trying to bring in, I think that's definitely a situation where those players are going to be lasting players.
There was no surprise Max Crosby was at that press conference. Saw that. The internet's blowing up with that.
Yeah.
And Max played for John Gruden, who won a Super Bowl, and Max now will play for Pete Carroll, who's won a Super Bowl. And I think that's going to be a very important piece for Pete Carroll, to completely connect with Max right out of the gate and get Max. As Max's buy-in has been incredible since day one.
Yep.
With all the changes with the front office and what's happened with coaches over the years, Max has never wavered. And he's got bigger media platforms, Max does, than he's ever had now.
Yep.
So he's got a lot of opportunity to talk about what's happening here. And to see him there was really nice because Pete Carroll caught him in the crowd, and that's important. You got to have leaders who are established. This will not be a completely brand new football team. There'll be players that are going to help him build it, and I think Pete, from telling us that, really understands that.
And I keep going back to I hope that Pete is not having to start on the first floor. And I think Antonio Pierce has brought a level of just kind of buy-in to this organization that I think Pete's going to be able to come in and hopefully say, like, man, I'm on the second or third floor here already because of guys like Max Crosby and how the accountability in the locker room that really Max kind of, really has to put his foot on the ground like, hey, here's where we're starting from. When you come to practice, you know what? We're practicing to win football games. That's really important. And I think if you continue to bring people like Max in, you're gonna reap the benefits of that.
The Raiders have 4 picks in the first 73. Round 1, pick 6. Round 2, 37. Round 3, 68. They have 2. Remember the Devontae trade to the Jets. So they have 68 and 73 before they pick again at 106. So
that's good.
Those are very important picks there. And you look at that, can you bracket the third-round picks to get up into the first round and get 2 first-rounders? Can you bracket 37 and 68 to move up to get to number 3 overall in the first round? There's going to be a lot of opportunity for John Spytek and Pete Carroll to look at this draft board and say, no, we're going. We got a chance to go big. We love this particular draft because of the running backs and the, say, corners or whatever it's going to be. And then you look there with the Raiders at number 6. Who needs a quarterback? Well, the Titans need a quarterback. The Browns with Deshaun Watson and the money they still have on the books is huge.
He's out for next year, though.
Yeah, he's out with that, and they're going to need one. The Giants, obviously, are in a situation. The Patriots, they have their quarterback, and so do the Jaguars as we look now. So if the Raiders want to move up to get the quarterback, they'll have the ability to do that. But I think there's going to be a couple of very good quarterback prospects later in the first round that
I believe
you
so
could
too.
go get your quarterback. I'm just not a big fan of waiting for a quarterback. If you like the quarterback, if you love Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart, you take them at 6 because they're the guys you want. You don't want to take a chance on losing it. And that's what Sean Payton did well with Bo Nix. He was ready to pounce at 12, but if he had to go up and go get him, he was willing to do that. And I think that's something that the Raiders and John Spytek, when we talk to him, the next couple of conversations, this is his welcoming interview and what his quick philosophies are, but the Raiders want to get another quarterback in that room, veteran or rookie.
They have to, and that evaluation process, even though they're today on the press row, so to speak, kind of coming in, talking to us, talking to everyone today, I mean, tonight, they have to be evaluating this locker room, and particularly the quarterback position, to see if they can find a way to bring in a quarterback or draft a quarterback who fits this profile of, hey, you don't have to do everything. We're not looking for you to be Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. We're looking for you for some specific skill sets and how you process the game that will help you win football games when we put these other pieces around you. And so I think that's the argument, that's the debate, that's the conversation that you have to have tonight with the people that are on the staff.
Yeah, I have a sense that they're really working. You know that you've been around the game so long. When you see someone get a job, they're not going on vacation. John Spytek isn't going to the Caribbean for a week here. We look at his resume for those who are watching and for those who are listening. Radio exclusive. It started off with the Eagles back in the day, as early as 2006. A Super Bowl with the Broncos, and he won a Super Bowl there. The lost Super Bowl, he mentioned that to Pete Carroll. And then the Buccaneer run started in 2016 as director of player personnel, then a vice president of player personnel, and then the assistant general manager. That's a nice run there, a two-time Super Bowl champion. And the Buccaneers, they won that Super Bowl against the Raiders, and then they had a chance to turn the team around. And that Brady Super Bowl, a lot of that had to do, and I would assume, with Spytek's relationship with Brady.
Yeah.
Spytek was in the building when Brady had to make a decision. Bruce Arians, some of the players and coaches that were in there. I remember the day that Brady signed with Tampa, and I said, whoa, wait a second, let me bring up the roster. Right. And I brought up the roster, and I said, wow, now I get it.
Yes.
Tom Brady was not going to, at the time, go to a rebuild.
No.
He was going to a roster that he thought had value and the upside for him to win, and man, did they nail it.
Oh, they killed it.
Yeah.
And not just to have the offensive personnel, but to have a really strong up and down the roster, impactful players on that football team, defensively, offensively, receivers, running back, by committee, offensive line, defensive line. So the foundation of that football team, I think, going into it, was both defense and offensive lines. And I think that's, when you look at the last 4 teams standing this year, they had 4 teams that could dominate the line of scrimmage at some point, particularly the last 2 teams that are standing right now. So that seems like the model, is to get tremendous offensive line, defensive line personnel, be able to get after the quarterback, protect the quarterback, and then be able to play complementary football on offense. And defensively, just seems like Pete and how he loves defense is really going to fly and get after you on the back end, and then have those linemen up front that we can interchange and get after you, which we've seen a little bit of that this year with our football team.
Let's go over the top 10 quarterback prospects available here in the draft. And we've known the name Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders back-to-back for a while. You can switch them out 1-2, 2-1. I'm a big fan of Jalen Milroe of Alabama. God, he's got some talent, raw talent overall. Riley Leonard at Notre Dame, we saw him play at a high level. And then Kyle McCord at Syracuse, who I watched play against UNLV when Syracuse won. That was a big-time performance there. So you look at some of the quarterbacks that are there, it seems like it's 1 and 2, and then everybody else. So if you're not able to get Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, what would be the next pick overall? Something that we'll ask John Spytek down the road.
Yeah, I like Milroe, the skill set alone, the measurables, things that you know he's coming into the building with, and hopefully whoever's your quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, is able to graduate him and allow him to really learn under maybe a free agent guy. But like the skill set is there. When he's outside the pocket, that's a little special, right?
Yeah.
And he has the arm. So those are things maybe you're looking for when you're talking about a quarterback who's going to be the future of this franchise.
When we come back, John Spytek will join us. How about our day today?
Man.
Getting everybody in here. We got another hour to go on Raider Nation Radio. And however you're watching today on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, on the radio, we greatly appreciate it. The new GM of the Silver and Black will join us next.
Would you look at that? The NFL's most prolific tight end. A man of few words.
Rookie of the month, how does that kind of hit you as you heard about it?
That's cool. I don't know. And impressive evasive maneuvers.
You don't have a nickname?
No. Who is all about football.
I'm excited. Football. Yeah, I just catch it and run. I don't know.
And beloved by all.
One and only Brock Bowers. All right. Thanks, man. Nice tight, everybody. Guys, a legend. We're all ready.
Oh, really?
Bowers still going. Brock Bowers bulldozes his way.
Brock Bowers pulling it in.
Oh, yeah.
It's game day, the day we've been waiting for. And this is more than just a game, it's a passion, a lifestyle. Here at the Raider Image, you're part of our team. Whether you're in the stands or cheering from home, we've got your back. Feel the confidence, own the game. We are the Raider Image. Your game, your gear, exclusively at the Raider Image.
This is how we hang out in Vegas, man. Presented by MGM Rewards. LPM Restaurant and Bar, bro. I told you, this is the spot right here. It's the spot. Look at the selection. Look at this ribeye. We've got the lobster Benedict, the potatoes in escargot butter. I love not only the food, but I love the decorum here at LPM.
It's very relaxed.
Oh, yeah. Believe it or not, MGM Resorts actually gave us access to a pretty cool suite upstairs. You want to go check it out? Let's do it. This is nice.
One of a kind, man.
This is so cool for MGM Resorts to give us access to the Cosmopolitan Las Vegas wraparound suite. Why is this so perfect to come out with the boys and enjoy a game?
First of all, the view. Then the hype, the entertainment. Vegas sells itself.
You can just come out with the fellas and enjoy. You don't have to feel cramped on top of each other.
Yeah.
This is how you come to Vegas. Like, this is how you do Vegas. If you're gonna do Vegas, you gotta do Vegas big.
Go big or go home.
Where we're at right now is the training facility where the Las Vegas Raiders are able to train for the game that's going to happen tomorrow.
Nice to meet you, bro. Glad to meet you.
They're really nice people, and it's really nice to actually meet the players instead of just seeing them on TV.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I mean, we never thought it'd be something like this. Seeing the players up close and personal is life-changing.
We'd like to present to you
You now have everything you need on the field tomorrow.
It means the world to me and my students. It's everything.
Welcome back to Raider Nation Radio. Hour number 2. We just had head coach Pete Carroll and now the new GM of the Silver and Black, John Spytek. John, congratulations.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate it. It's awesome to be here.
It seems like this was a big day. You connected with your family, your wife and kids being here in this beautiful complex. Kind of a dream come true, huh?
Absolutely. I'm not sure I got this far in my dreams in Las Vegas with the Raiders and my family sitting there in front and the silver and the black. I mean, small town Wisconsin kid growing up as a diehard Packers fan and turned that card in a long time ago, and just no place I'd rather be than here right now.
I tell you, I mean, every football kid who grows up has like a Raider moment. What was your Raider moment?
I've actually told a couple people this so far today, but when you grow up in Wisconsin, the Raiders are always on late. So I remember going to my grandfather's house all the time, and family would be doing whatever, and I was just put the TV on. I want to be on NBC with Dick Enberg and see Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen and Tim Brown and James Jett just up and down the field. You know, that's like a seminal moment that I've thought a lot about over the past week.
Yeah.
Well, Azia is a finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame and with the Eagles, and you were just back there. That's important. Your start going back then as you were breaking into the business and your early mentors.
I mean, I can't think of a better spot to have started a career than in Philadelphia at that time. Andy Reid, John Harbaugh, Sean McDermott, Spags was there. You know, GMs, Jason Light, my old GM, but Matt Russell, who ran the Broncos for a while. Howie Roseman was there. I mean, what like an incubator of talent. And we won a lot of games. And I look back, it's like, well, of course we did. We had great coaches. We had great personnel people. And, you know, that's just an example. If you get the right people in the building, that's what's going to happen. And so for me to have a front row seat to the way that they built the team and managed the team and stayed competitive every year, I mean, I pinch myself over that stuff.
Yeah. Were there building blocks that they had that kind of stuck with you throughout? And if there are, what were they?
I just think about Andy all the time, just being remarkably steady and consistent and dealing basically with losses and wins the same. And what a challenge that is, I think, in our industry. I mean, Pete talked about a little bit, the highs and the lows of wins. You got to get rid of that really quick after Sunday because the next Sunday's coming fast. And I could always marveled at the fact that when you walked in, you saw Andy on a Monday, you didn't know if it was a win or a loss the day before. It just was, we're on to the next. It's about our process. It's about our preparation. It's about our work ethic, and that'll take us to where we want to go.
John Spytek joins us. John, for your career, seems interesting this most recent run with Tampa Bay to get that Super Bowl, bringing in Tom Brady. But Eric and I were looking at the roster, and you mentioned it at the press conference, all the players you drafted or were undrafted to build that team. That's got to be a proud moment for you at that stage in your career to retain that many great players.
Yeah, remarkably proud for the process that we put in place with our scouts and the job that they did. You know, our ability to work together and, you know, take a shot with Tom and get it done, and then take a couple more shots and then kind of fall short and turn the oldest roster in the league into the second youngest roster in the league in 2 years was a testament to our scouts and the process that Jason Light put in place. And when you really look at it, when you look about the amount of dead cap space we carried into 2023 was $75 million. We really had no other choice either. We had to hit home runs in the draft, and we knew that. We embraced it, and we did it. And I'm proud of a lot of things in my career, but the 44 or 53 guys being homegrown to start the season this year is really cool.
Well said.
Yeah. Any similarities, some of your stops that you see with this football team?
I mean, there's a bunch of great players here, I think. I mean, Max was there today. It was so good to see him and meet him, and I have so much respect for him. I mean, here's a guy that plays 100% of the snaps as an outside, as an edge pass rusher. I mean, it's really one-of-one stuff. Yeah. You know, obviously what Brock Bowers did is incredible. I'm not surprised. You know, when he started to fall in the draft last year, we kind of thought like, well, maybe he'll make it all the way to us. And then, now I'm sitting here. I'm really glad that he didn't, because I wouldn't be with him anymore. But, I see a lot of really quality football players in here, and the one thing that they haven't had is stability. Mm-hmm. And, that's up to Pete and myself right now, is to give some stability to this franchise so these guys can become the players they're capable of.
I'm happy you said that, because there were so many players injured. You look at Christian Wilkins, and you followed him in Miami, and to know that he's ready coming off an injury and how great of a player he is, and then other players that you're going to consider down the road to either pay in free agency or decide what you're going to do. I think the team's roster, it didn't show up in the record. It was a much better team, and then the 10 losses in a row, and all the injuries started mounting. When you watch the Raiders from a distance, you could tell, I think, other than Detroit, they had the most players missing from IR injuries here. A lot of those guys will be coming back healthy, looking to play for you.
Yeah, it almost feels like they're free agents or draft picks when they show back up. To get Christian Wilkins, we played the Raiders this year. We didn't have to deal with Christian Wilkins. We were very grateful for that. So him coming back now healthy, ready to roll, will be like adding an additional player. And then the one thing I'll say, when we played the Raiders this year in Tampa, is I had a ton of respect for a team mired in a long losing streak, the way that they laid it on the line and competed, which tells me there's a lot of guys here that love to play and love to compete. And we just got to keep building and add more of those people here, and we'll get a chance to be playing when it matters.
We were talking today, JT and I, about, it seemed like the previous coaching staff left some pieces that were not starting on the first floor, right? You're saying that just kind of the culture and what it means to be a Raider. From a GM standpoint and from evaluating players, did the previous GM kind of put you in a situation where you feel like you're not starting on the first floor?
Yeah, certainly there's some good players here, and our job is now to support them and add more good players to it. And, I think that every NFL team has talent. There's not a lot of really great football players in the world. You know this. You were a great one. But there's a lot of really good football players in the world. And, our job is to help them grow as people, as players, and surround them with people that can make their jobs easier too. When you line up and you know that the guy next to me is going to do his job, that makes my ability to do my job better. I don't have to worry about if my tackle is going to, fix the TE stunt with me. I know he's going to do it, so I'll just do my job. And we just got to keep adding people to that.
I think a lot of fans would like to know your friendship and relationship with former teammate Tom Brady at Michigan. You spoke about that a little bit and how you kept in touch along the way before he became to the Bucs organization. Now, his family, his kids, and your kids. What's that relationship, the cornerstone about it?
I think the cornerstone is Michigan. I played with Tom in 1999. And then he went on to do great things, and I was an intern with the Philadelphia Eagles. So he had already won 3 Super Bowls by the time I started that. But, for our paths to cross again, and then the time that we got to spend together in Tampa, the one thing that we kind of kept coming back to was our Michigan past, and how it was kind of in us. And it's the team, the famous Bo Schembechler quote, and those who stay will be champions, and the competitive stamina and the selflessness that it takes to build a winning program. And we kind of resonated over that. And yes, we grew friendly through the years, and we stay in touch, and it was great to see him when he played our games this year. But I'm grateful that he thought enough of me to give me a chance to interview. But I know one thing about Tom: if he didn't think I could do the job, I would not be sitting here right now. Because the only thing he cares about is winning, and when his name's on it, he really cares about it. So,
for sure,
I know. When you're going through I was always interested in this. When you're on your side of the field, analyzing players, evaluating players, is there something in a player that lets you know that he loves the game? I think, like, you can see a guy play, but when you sit down and talk with him, are there certain things that come up that says, man, this guy is the type of player I want on my football team because how he loves the game. He's going to show that in practice. He's going to show that when he walks outside the building. Anything like that?
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do as a scout is watch tape before I read the character on a player and then try to guess what the character is. And when you get to your 21st year of doing it, you actually would be surprised, or maybe not, how easy it is to do. So use a defensive player. Like, if you're going to not run and chase the football when it goes the other way, you're telling me things. You're telling me you're out of shape, you don't care, you're not that competitive. But if you're like Buda Baker, would be an example. This guy chases everything. He's one of the most competitive people I've ever interviewed. So those two things match up a little bit. If you're a running back, you're going to run out of bounds before the first down. I've been a part of teams where guys do that, and it's just like I cannot stomach it. If you're a corner and it's down block, down block, down block, and here it comes. You want to go up there and tackle them like Antoine Winfield Sr. used to do, one of my favorites, like Charles Woodson used to do. Or do you want to, somebody else will tackle that. And, those are the things where I think the players show you how much it means. Because football will expose you. It's a hard game. It's a physical game. It's not real comfortable a lot of times. And there's some people that are okay in that space, and there's many that aren't.
John, Spytek is our guest. I want to ask you about the AFC West. Obviously, Kansas City going back, trying to three-peat. When you think of Jim Harbaugh and the connection over there at Michigan, especially Sean Payton in Denver, they hit with Bo Nix. When you look to build this team and revamp this roster, you think of the entire NFL. But first, your comments on the division.
Well, if it's not the best division in the NFL, it's certainly the second best division. Yeah. We could probably argue between this one and the NFC North. But, I have so much respect for Coach Reed. Obviously, I've already gone up with that. Coach Payton was in the AFC or the NFC South with me for years. Great coach, teams that do it the right way. And then, Coach Harbaugh won a national championship at my alma mater, so much respect to him too. But I don't think there's any secret, right? We know what we're getting. We know they're good, physical, well-coached football teams, and we're going to have to deal with it. And, I've always been somebody that's up for a challenge, and I'm not under any preconceived notions it's going to be easy. But, if we can build the team the right way, physical, tough, relentless, in the trenches, then we'll be able to compete with that. Absolutely. And we got 3 good quarterbacks, so we better figure out a way to help Max and Christian and affect quarterbacks.
Yeah. Last one for me is when you start talking about culture, you start talking about how you build that culture. What are some of the context that goes into building a culture for a football team?
Well, I think we talked a little bit about it, but it's the person that we bring into the building. Mm-hmm. That is one of the things that I think is most important, or one of the things I feel most responsible for in my job is, there's that great line from some of the philosophical readings you can do out there, like your character will become your fate. And so the kind of person that we bring into this football team on this roster, that's what ultimately we're going to end up getting. So we've got to focus on the guys that are about the team, that are about doing it for the Raiders and not for themselves, that are going to work hard, that they're going to study so that when they get to the game on Sunday, we know, the coaches know, the players next to them know that they're going to do the right things. And then they're going to lay it on the line, If it's 4th and 1 and here comes the fullback, do we want to go win the game and knock them out? Or are we just going to be like, that's going to be a little bit too big of a collision for me? And we've got to be about those things here. It's easy to talk about, but we got to go find guys that are about that stuff.
Last one from me. You mentioned your family, to have an impact, to be the general manager of the Las Vegas Raiders in this thriving community, with the work you want to do with your wife and your kids going to school here and all of that. What is your message to our community here in Las Vegas as they welcome you?
Well, giving back to the community has been something that's hugely important to my family and I. We started a foundation to honor our late daughter, Evelyn. It's called the National CMV Foundation. We've been active in foster care in the Tampa Bay area, and my wife is an angel. She's the strongest person I know. You're going to see her out there doing things, and it's important to us to give back. To that who much is given, much is needs to be given back. And who would we be as a family if we have all these nice things in life that we've been afforded and we didn't try to help out and make a community better? So excited to be a part of Las Vegas and the growing community here and do our part to make it even better.
John, thanks for doing this. Congratulations.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
So great to be here with you guys.
Got it. John Spytek. When we come back, Tashan Reed will join us, and insider Paul Gutierrez on Raider Nation Radio.
Welcome into season 26 of the Silver and Black Show. Welcome into a special edition of the Silver and Black Show. Welcome into the Silver and Black Show. I'm Amber Theo Harris. Where's the touchdown ball?
It's at my house.
It is?
Yeah, they gave it to me. I brought it home.
Are you the kind of guy that just puts it on the counter and it takes somebody to come over and be like, can we please put it somewhere nicer?
It's actually sitting on the ground, in the corner of my room.
Not one man can win a football game by himself, but as long as I do my 11th, there's 11 guys on the field. If we all do our 1/11th, then everyone's right, and everyone, gives us the opportunity to win.
Camping in Vegas? Are you living in a bus? Did you get settled?
I have a house and a van now, so you got options.
A house and a van.
And a van. And I have a van that is a house, essentially.
Okay, so you live in the house van.
Yeah. No, I live in the house.
Okay,
with a van.
Got it.
Front,
yeah, I'm gonna stay with me here. We're gonna stay together here. To talk about this matchup, we welcome in Mr. Red Zone himself, my good friend Scott Hansen, joining us. Hey, Hansen, it's good to see you, my friend.
Amber, good to be with you here.
Yeah, hey, Shrakes, it's good to see you. We say hello to Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson. LT, it is good to see you. How are you?
I'm great, Amber. It's good to see you as well.
Our next guest, he's going to try to be unbiased, but we know where his heart is. NFL Media's Chris Rose joins us. He's in a box. He's in a glass box of emotion because his Browns are struggling right now.
Or to Brock Bowers, who's looking like he could finish the season as tight end 1 in fantasy this year.
We know we play each other, by the way, full disclosure, in fantasy. The tight end position is abysmal right now in fantasy.
It is.
That's another show.
That is one of the most confounding things in fantasy so far this year. But you look at Bowers' numbers, they're starting to be in line, whether it's targets and catches, and he's churning out some yards. Like to see him in the end zone a little bit more. But Bowers, nice player. They really have tapped into something there.
If you want to just look at pure numbers, look at the stats, look at the records that Brock Bowers has been setting.
It doesn't mean it's a loss if you still come out with good players. I mean, Brock Bowers, he's as good as it gets. I mean, he's on track to be a first-team All-Pro.
I mean, on Sunday, he took down 3 guys in one game, from Mike Ditka to Puka Nacua to Darren Waller.
I have to say this, everywhere I go, Raider fans do love me, though. They show respect.
Can't help it.
They show respect to me, and, I show respect back because they do have a great fan base.
You also have the luxury that not a lot of players have, and that's having a Hall of Fame uncle in Troy Polamalu. So do you pick his brain?
I've always watched him, just how he takes care of his body, like, Max and Spill. But, he's been a professional, and to this day, he still does the same regimen. He still eats the same. He still takes care of his body.
Perseverance is the main thing that I try to go by and live by every day. The gratefulness, once again, being allowed to being able to play in this league, obviously being able to have your talents recognized and to display them on Sunday afternoons.
So how can the Raiders offense get going? We say hello to our good friend Brian Baldinger. You know him from Baldy's Breakdowns. Rich, welcome into the Silver and Black Show. And I love that we get you straight from the set of the Rich Eisen Show. It's good to see you, old friend.
It's good to see you as well, Amber.
Coach, it is so good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you, Amber. Great talking about this great historic matchup that we have this Sunday.
Hall of Famer as well, Howie Long. And Howie, welcome in. Good to see you again. A man who always keeps it 100, our own James Jones. JJ, what's going on?
What's going
How
down?
are you?
What's happening? Remember, I always talk to you and you always laugh at me, which is cool, but I say I was sleeping a lot of meetings.
Doesn't surprise me.
You're listening to Upon Further Review. I'm your host, Eddie Pascal.
Good morning, Raider Nation.
Welcome to Raiders Roundtable. JT along with Eddie Pascal.
He dissects the play quickly and makes the move to the football.
To me, this game has always been about the players. I have a love affair of watching this game. I have a love affair of watching players compete. They're the ones that lay it on the line every Sunday, Monday night. My respect for them is immense. And I would not be here without the players that I've been a part on the teams I've been a part of. When I dreamt about having one of these jobs, I always wanted it to be with an iconic franchise like the Raiders. I'm not sure I ever got far enough in my dreams as a young kid in Pewaukee, Wisconsin, that I could be sitting up here today with the Raiders. But here I am.
And then the Raiders came to town. And when you're in the Bay Area, you can take sides and all. But the Raiders captured me a long time ago. And I'm just filled with gratitude to be part of this. There's so many elements that made this come together that are so special and so unique. I'm going to follow my instincts and support with John and through as we extend to ownership in a way that we're going to be proud of. And we're going to be fired up about who we are and what we stand for. We have a great following in the Raider Nation, and they've done amazing. They've made an amazing statement globally, and I'm so proud to be part of that and recognizing that we get to represent our following. We're starting right now, going for it immediately. We don't have some timeline. We got to make it 5 or 6 years down the road. That's not what we're thinking. We're going to start right now to go after it and build this team as quickly as we can. As John saw Max back there, Max, send a message, man. We're coming after you. We're going to come find you guys and get this thing rolling as soon as possible with the highest of expectations, with a mentality that will drive high performance in a way that hopefully everybody's going to hear us and they're going to know us. And so I'm really proud to take on that challenge. So.
All right, welcome back. That was the best of the press conference earlier today. We had Pete Carroll, John Spytek just came in. EA's here with me, and Tashan Reed joins us from The Athletic. Thanks for coming up here on a busy day. Your first impressions here of the combination of Carroll and Spytek.
think Pete Carroll has a lot of energy for a 7'3" year-old. I mean, I think that jumped out pretty clearly. He's fired up to be here. Same for John Spytek. But he set the tone pretty early. Saying that they're going to try to go for it immediately and win right now. I know there's a lot of questions about. Obviously the Raiders are coming off a 4-13 season. How does that mesh with Pete Carroll being an older head coach? And it's clear he thinks his team is one that he can flip. We've seen other franchises do that in the past, and we'll see if they can pull it off.
You asked a really important question first about the collaboration between them two, and you were telling EA before we came back how that was different from the past.
Yeah, I think the last two iterations of the Raiders regime, the GM kind of pretty clearly, went out there and said, I'm making final roster decisions. And then before them, John Gruden obviously had a lot of control. And then, back in the day, Al Davis was running things. So the Raiders have been kind of a fluid franchise in that way. And I think that's continuing with this. What Carroll is saying is going to be a collaboration with John Spytek. And that's something that's similar to what Carroll had when he was the Seattle Seahawks head coach for 14 seasons. With GM John Snyder, he handled the day-to-day duties, but Carroll was also the vice president of football operations, and so he had final veto power when it came to roster decisions. Now, Schneider said that Carroll rarely pulled that card, and it wasn't something he just did left and right in terms of overruling him if they disagreed on something. But it's clear that he's going to be heavily involved in roster decisions based off what he said, whether that's the draft or free agency or trades. And they want it to be a collaborative process moving forward. And so we'll see that. It's a huge offseason for them, of course, like every offseason, but they have a ton of cap space, I think over $100 million projected, the 6th overall pick, a bunch of draft capital, and so see how they plan on using it.
Yeah. I think the one thing that kind of binds this relationship between these two men is the love of the game. I'm not sure how many times we heard that today in the press conference, multiple times, but how does that love of the game get you to a culture shift in a matter of 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, and I know it's kind of a football cliche. Everybody says they love the game, but everybody doesn't in the same way. And I think if you're Pete Carroll at this point in your career, Super Bowl champion, national championship winner, he's made plenty of money over the years. Like, he's only still doing this at his age if he loves it, right? And then same goes for John Spytek. I mean, he's a former college football player at Michigan. Started off grinding his teeth as an intern in the NFL with the Detroit Lions. Did that grunt work as an area scout, traveling all over the country, going away from his family. And, on both ends, while they're different vastly in terms of experience and their paths, that's at the core of why they do this. And that's something that you want to reverberate throughout your entire franchise, whether it's the coaching staff, the executives, the roster, of course. Max Crosby was in there, and there's no question that, he loves the game. I mean, he's in there with a boot on, rehabbing every day and going hard. And so that's the culture that they're trying to set. Obviously, they're early on in the process. They just got hired, but the work to instill that begins now, moving forward with the rest of this offseason.
Tashan Reed joins us from The Athletic. So I want to dive into Spytek and Brady. How are you covering the Raiders now with this new ownership platform? It's Mark Davis as the primary owner here, but these minority owners, and how Tom Brady, who's broadcasting on the side, has a direct connection to Spytek.
It's definitely different. Obviously, they're not the only franchise with minority owners. Magic Johnson really jumped out this postseason, got a lot of attention with the Washington Commanders with everything that they were doing up there under their new owner. And so, but it is new for the Raiders. And I think somebody as prominent as Tom Brady, with the voice that he has, obviously we see him on TV every week on Fox, but also, he's the greatest player of all time. And there's a lot that comes with that. And you heard Pete Carroll mention him several times today, unprompted, talking about leaning on his expertise, when it comes to roster decisions, primarily at quarterback, but not just quarterback. Like, obviously, Tom Brady just knows the game of football, period. And he was very involved in the search process, both on GM and head coach. He was in the interview panel. He helped reach out to candidates. So he's a very prominent minority owner, is a way to say that. So he'll be very involved moving forward.
The free agent period is about to pop up here.
Here we go.
And before we go outside the building, we got to look inside the building. Mm-hmm. What are some of the key guys you believe need to be back and guys who are kind of on the fence?
It's like the entire defense pretty much is hitting free agency, right? I mean, I know he didn't play this year, but Malcolm Kuntz really jumps out, defensive end. Robert Spillane, Trayvon Merrick at safety, Marcus Epps. They have a ton of guys hitting free agency, and every year you're going to have some roster turnover. Like, all these guys aren't going to be back, but there's a few guys that you feel like you would really lock in on. Robert Spillane, in particular, in the middle of that defense. Trayvon Merrick, being a young player, the way he played, I'd be a little surprised if they didn't try to hang on to those guys. as I mentioned, they do have a lot of cap space, but they do have other positions on the roster, where they need to upgrade, mostly on the offensive side of the ball with that unit, having some struggles this year. And so it's kind of a tricky balance that you have to figure out how to navigate. I asked John Spytek about that, and every GM wants to build through the draft, and that's part of the reason why. There's going to be guys that you want to keep that unfortunately you lose sometimes because it is a hard salary cap league. And so I think it has to be a mix of the two, bringing back some of your guys, making some outside signings like we saw them do last year, making the big splash with Christian Wilkins, bringing him in, draft picks, Brock Bowers last year. So it always has to be a mix of everything, right? The trade market is also something that could factor in, particularly at quarterback, depending on how they want to move forward there. So it'll be a situation where they don't know these guys as intimately as the previous staff, but they're going to spend these next few weeks really digging into that last year's tape and figuring out who they want to try to bring back.
Tashan Reed is our guest. We talked about this. This is a great opportunity for a GM. We know the coach, so the coach is unbelievable. But for him to have that much money available, knowing there's good players in the building, and I think the biggest thing is just my opinion, how many guys were injured who now he's going to get, who are going to be good players. That, if you can thread the needle, Tashan, on that, you can turn it around. Now, the Commanders went from 4 wins and won 2 playoff games. I'm not saying that's going to happen quickly, but there is a formula in place. And that being said, do you think they have to get aggressive with the quarterback position, either in free agency with all the money or moving up to get a top 2 quarterback in this draft?
I think you have to. If that timeline, like Pete Carroll said, is to win immediately, then you need to make an upgrade at quarterback, I would say. All due respect to O'Connell, I think he's going to still be in the building and could have a chance to compete for the job next year. But you have to, I think John Spytek pointed out when they first got to Seattle, they just kept taking shots until they found their guy in Russell Wilson. I think you have to do the same thing here. Whether it's via trade, there's some guys out there, maybe a Geno Smith, a quarterback that Pete Carroll knows very well. Whether it's through free agency, Russell Wilson's out there, there's a quarterback that Pete Carroll knows very well. Or if it's a rookie in the draft, or some combination of all that. And so I do think you have to go for it and find an answer because it has been a revolving door at that position since they made the decision to cut Derek Carr a few years ago. And it's just you're not going to have much sustainable success if you don't have a clear answer at quarterback. And so I think finding one, at least for this season, in this offseason, needs to be the task.
Yeah, and the way they described it is it's really about building around a quarterback skill set to be able to be successful. How do you feel with that type of quarterback, free agency or rookie, with you have the head coach and Pete Carroll going into Kansas City, going into Denver, going into San Diego or Los Angeles?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of building up the roster around the quarterback, it has to start in the trenches, right? Like anything. I mean, you look at the teams that are still playing. I mean, the Eagles, every year they're spending first-round picks, whether it's offensive line, defensive line. The Chiefs have one of the best offensive lines in the league, and obviously Chris Jones is a monster on the defensive line. Like, that's how you win in this league. And you look back at really both of their history, but John Spytek in particular as an executive, he won a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos back when they had Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware and those guys. The Bucs Super Bowl that they won with Tom Brady, those trenches were fierce, and I think that's where it starts. And the Raiders, they've had some good defensive line play, I would say, the last couple of years, but you can never get enough pass rushers, enough defensive tackles, and then on the offensive line, I think that's where you can see some work really being done, particularly not just on the interior, but even maybe making an upgrade at right tackle, and so. I think that's where it starts because you can have the best quarterback in the league, and if big boys ain't blocking for him, it's going to be a long night. I mean, Tom Brady knows that well. I mean, in that Super Bowl that they won over Patrick Mahomes, part of the reason why is because they couldn't block anybody. He was running around the whole game, and so you're not going to win if you don't protect your quarterback. And I think it needs to start there.
Tashan Reed is our guest. It's important. Because if I look at free agencies, the combination of the draft, John Spytek, I think I would speak for you too on this, was talking about the trenches a lot.
Yeah.
He wants that type of team, and you nailed it talking about the Eagles and the Chiefs. And the Raiders have some tough guys here. Jackson Powers Johnson is a tough football player. Colt Miller's been a very good football player on this team, close to a Pro Bowler here. But I think that's the core of what I've seen around here the last 4 or 5 years is that not taking that shot to get a veteran right tackle, just trying to develop that player and it not working out perfectly, or trying to develop a young corner when you could get a free agent. And if this is going to happen as we take a look at the offensive linemen here that the Raiders have on the screen, I think there are some core guys. I don't expect everybody on this list to be back, but those are some players that I think you can build around, but you got to follow them up, I think, with some veterans.
For sure. And in offensive line, you also depth is really important because you might have an answer one week, somebody gets hurt, and all of a sudden you need a starting left tackle. And so you got to have really 7 or 8 qualities, almost starting caliber guys on that offensive line to make it through a full season, with it being 18 weeks now. And so even if you like a guy, that doesn't mean you shouldn't still add a guard or extra tackle, because that depth is really important. And so that's Spytek's philosophy. We know Pete Carroll really wants to run the ball. That was something that was really big. We saw Marshawn Lynch in there in the press conference room.
Yeah.
He's a great running back, but he also has some guys blocking for him. And so I expect that to be a position group that they invest in heavily this offseason.
The last couple of years, obviously, we've thought about the running back in kind of like a subdued spot on the football team. This year, obviously, with Barkley having a great year and the rest of the players, the teams that are in the playoffs having good running games, how do we attack that part of our football team?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, adding a starting caliber running back is also something that should be on the list. It could be a veteran guy, like you mentioned. We saw a few teams, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, old friend Josh Jacobs up with the Green Bay Packers. Had a pretty good year over there. So we'll see. I don't know. I'd have to look a little bit closer at the list of free agency hitting the market, but there's guys going to be available in the draft as well. We see, last year something that Spytek did with the Bucs was finding Bucky Irvin, who had a hell of a rookie season and had a pretty good game when they played against the Raiders not too long ago. And so you don't necessarily have to spend a first-round pick or spend a whole bunch of money. You can still find an answer there, though, and I think that needs to be a position that they definitely invest in.
Tashan Reed's our guest from The Athletic. Follow him all over X. So I want to jump into free agent wide receiver because T. Higgins is the biggest name out there, and I think he's a good player. But I see a drop-off after that. This isn't a year where there's 6 guys or 5 like T. Higgins, and he's going to be the big one, and Joe Burrow wants to keep him. As we take a look at this list, Chris Godwin, very familiar with Tampa Bay, and Brock Bowers is putting up receiver numbers, and Michael Mayer could put up tight end numbers. Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker. So do you believe that they have to get a dominant alpha number 1, or could they get someone similar to Jacoby and have 2 number 2s that are really good, because Brock Bowers is putting up number 1 wide receiver numbers?
Yeah, in today's NFL, your number 1 option doesn't necessarily have to play wide receiver. Again, to mention the Chiefs, Travis Kelce has been their number 1 option for a lot of his career, and they've won a bunch of Super Bowls. So, clearly that formula works. And so Brock Bowers, right away as a rookie, all-pro caliber player, he was the best tight end in football this year, in my opinion. So if he's your number 1 option, like you said, you don't necessarily need that dominant option. You can have both, though. Go back to the Chiefs.
That'd be nice.
Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, why not do something like that? And Jacoby Myers, I think he's proven himself. He had his first 1,000-yard season this year. He's a quality receiver, but really that dominant number 1 guy, I still think it's something that you explore, and they do have a ton of cap space. So if Higgins is available, I would definitely, take a shot at him, or that could also come through the draft. The Raiders do have the number 6 overall pick. I know that everybody's focused on quarterback. But if the top prospects aren't there, I know that the receiver at the University of Arizona is a highly touted prospect. Yep, and you have Travis Hunter as well, who we'll see which side of the ball he plays on, but he's a pretty good receiver too. So I think there could be some options in the draft as well if they don't go get a number 1 guy like T. Higgins.
And when you look at it and you say to yourself, I think, tight end, there's just no question. Brock is just a tremendous player. I think as a number 2 receiver, Jacoby Myers, I wouldn't take 2 or 3 guys above him as a number 2 spot. So, yeah, if you're able to bring in a receiver on the outside who's either that deep threat or just kind of that guy who can kind of swing the coverage a little bit, that would definitely help whatever quarterback you have. And I think that's kind of what we're hearing today out of these press conferences. Yes, the quarterback position is important, but if we build around him and give him things that he can help him win football games, I think that's the critical point of what these 2 men were saying today, right?
And I would also go back to that Bucs team in terms of how that offense was structured when they won the Super Bowl. Obviously you have Tom Brady. You have, arguably the best tight end ever in Rob Gronkowski, but they also have, a good number 2 in Chris Godwin. That's probably like the Jacoby Myers comparison. But they also have Mike Evans, who gets 1,000 yards basically every year he's in the NFL. And a first-round running back, and Leonard Fournette that was on the team, and some others that were contributing. And so there's no such thing as too many weapons. I think you can feel good about what you have, but they would be wise to continue to be aggressive exploring that market.
What are you working on with the podcast, audio, print? You got a lot going on at The Athletic, and today was a big day for you.
Yeah, so we're going to be recording an episode of the Just Win podcast this afternoon, me, Vic Tafer, and Ted and Win. That should be out tomorrow morning. We have a story already up on the press conference, kind of immediate takeaways, and then Vic and I, my beat partner over at The Athletic, will have some fresh stories for you guys in the morning, so come over and check it out.
Thank you very much for coming up here.
Appreciate you.
That's Tashan Reed, everybody. When we come back, Paul Gutierrez from ESPN, The Insider, will join us as we continue from headquarters on the flagship of the Silver and Black, Raider Nation Radio.
Would you look at that? The NFL's most prolific tight end. A man of few words.
Rookie of the month, how does that kind of hit you as you heard about it?
Cool. I don't know. And impressive evasive maneuvers.
You don't have a nickname?
No. Who is all about football.
I'm excited. Football.
Yeah, just catch and run. I don't know. And beloved by all.
One and only Brock Bowers. All right. Thanks, man. Nice tight end week.
Guy's a legend. We're all ready. Oh, really?
Bowers still going. Brock Bowers bulldozes his way. Brock Bowers pulling it in.
Oh, yeah.
It's game day, the day we've been waiting for. And this is more than just a game, it's a passion, a lifestyle. Here at the Raider Image, you're part of our team. Whether you're in the stands or cheering from home, we've got your back. Feel the confidence, own the game. We are the Raider Image. Your game, your gear, exclusively at the Raider Image.
This is how we hang out in Vegas, man. Presented by MGM Rewards, LPM Restaurant and Bar, bro. I told you, this is the spot right here. It's the spot. Look at the selection. Look at this ribeye. We've got the lobster Benedict, the potatoes in escargot butter. I love not only the food, but I love the decorum here at LPM.
It's very relaxed.
Oh yeah. Believe it or not, MGM Resorts actually gave us access to a pretty cool suite upstairs. You want to go check it out? Let's do it. This is nice.
One of a kind, man.
This is so cool for MGM Resorts to give us access to the Cosmopolitan Las Vegas wraparound suite. Why is this so perfect to come out with the boys and enjoy a game?
First of all, the view. Then the hype, the entertainment.
Vegas sells itself. You can just come out with the fellas and enjoy. You don't have to feel cramped on top of each other.
Yeah.
This is how you come to Vegas. Like, this is how you do Vegas. If you're gonna do Vegas, you gotta do Vegas big.
Go big or go home.
Where we're at right now is the training facility where the Las Vegas Raiders are able to train for the game that's going to happen tomorrow.
Nice to meet you, bro. Glad to meet you.
They're really nice people, and it's really nice to actually meet the players instead of just seeing them on TV.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I mean, we never thought it'd be something like this. Seeing the players up close and personal is life-changing.
You now have everything you need for you tomorrow.
It means the world to me and my family.
It's everything.
It's a big deal.
Beautiful. Yeah, this is good. What a place. Yeah, you can watch practice from right there.
Welcome back, everybody, as we wrap it up on Raider Nation Radio and all Raider platforms. Eric Allen, the finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, JT, and Paul Gutierrez joins us from ESPN. Thanks for coming up here. It seems different this time around, as we said. What were your takeaways?
It does, guys. Thanks for having me on such a big day for the organization, obviously. But it just there was a
I'm not going to say that there wasn't a sense of hope before or a sense of believing. This just felt different, and you could feel the energy bouncing off of both of the gentlemen up at the podium, whether it was the new GM, John Spytek, a first-time ever general manager, and a potential Hall of Fame coach in Pete Carroll, kind of a meshing of the minds coming together. So when I asked Pete how that's all going to come together, boom, right away. He could see it immediately. So I'm not going to, again, it's hard, right? When you give props to an incoming administration, you're not taking a shot at what was there before,
right? Because
there's some infrastructure that was already put in place.
Yes.
And that's the one thing that in talking with Raiders owner Mark Davis afterwards, he talked about that as well.
Yeah. What are the differences between, speaking and talking to these two new guys opposed to the AP, Tom, and then let's go back to Josh. What were the subtle differences, if any, that from the press conferences?
Yeah. So with Pete Carroll in particular, there's instant credibility. There's instant stability. That's what he represents. That's what he's bringing into this building. And you see how that is going to mesh now with the first-time GM, somebody that's 30 years younger than the head coach. So, but again, age is only a number, right?
Yep.
I'm not going to go down that road. But what's different about it, and this is what Mark Davis talked about himself after, was that this organization has been kind of missing a piece, missing some stability, missing this infrastructure ever since John Gruden was sent away, in his words. So now you bring in somebody that has the experience. You bring in somebody that has done this at the highest levels. And again, not a shot at AP, not a shot at Josh McDaniels, but their resumes pale in comparison when you bring in a Pete Carroll. And it's really as simple as that.
Paul Gutierrez is our guest. What's the future look like immediately, considering the calendar that you're going to follow here? Vinny Bonsignore's down at the Senior Bowl today. I heard him on our flagship today. Free agency, obviously the combine, and the money that's available. There's a chance for something really special to happen if it's done right.
Well, if you're on the team charter, let me know if somebody's doing high knees running up and down on games, because I'm not going to say the name, but we all know who we're talking about, if that's even a possibility. Mm-hmm. But quarterback is the number one question here. Aiden O'Connell has shown that he can be serviceable. He's shown that he can win games. Mm-hmm. But that's obviously a needed upgrade, the position in and of itself. As Pete himself said, it's the most important and hardest position in all of team sports, something that Coach Walsh ingrained in him. So he knows that as well. So that's the number one thing. But also right there, 1A is, who's his offensive coordinator going to be? Because that's going to tell you exactly what type of scheme he wants to run. That's going to tell you what kind of quarterback he's going to want to bring in here. So that right there is the number one thing. They've got the number 6 overall draft pick. They've got over $108 million in salary cap space. So it's time to kind of make things happen. I did think it was interesting that when Pete was asked about what he wants in his coaching staff, he did say he wants some guys that he's already worked with.
Yeah.
He wants some guys that he's never worked with. And, he'd like to retain some guys, too. So that's just wide open as to see. You might have a job, EA.
I tell you, as we look at the board here, there's a list of great guys who have worked under Pete Carroll. And I mentioned to him, I was like, we talk about all these trees all the time and where you come from. He's his own tree.
Yes.
I mean, there's guys who came from his tree. But with the age, it's all about it doesn't matter how old you are. Right. It doesn't matter what season you're playing in. You have to adapt, right? If you don't adapt, you're going to die, correct?
Yeah.
So how do you build a coaching staff knowing that you have to go against Andy and Pat? You have to go against, Jim Harbaugh and their quarterback and the Broncos. So how do you adapt your style from Seattle that was really successful in that time? We're not in that time right now.
Right.
How do you see him adapted?
Well, you have to. You have to adapt. And as you mentioned, a tree, I'll go back to my martial arts training growing up with my dad with an old proverb: he who does not bend with the wind shall be broken by the wind.
Okay.
You're always learning something. If you're not learning, then you're either stupid or you're dead, and probably both at the same time. So you have to be able to adapt. And that's the one thing that the more experience you get, the more you learn, and the more you learn, the less you realize that you knew before. So that's the way you do it. And that's the one thing I did wish I wanted to end the press conference with this question with him was how excited was he to join this division with Andy and Patrick, with Sean Payton and Bo Nix, with his old friend Jim Harbaugh. And I was going to end it off with, what's your deal? Why would you want to come back to this?
Right,
what's your deal?
I find it funny, too, also, because there are opportunities in life that don't happen unless something big happens in front of you. So if a GM and a coach don't get let go, you don't get this opportunity. Right. And we all had a lot of respect, and you built good relationships with the former coaches here. And you made a good point. They built the foundation. There's some good players here, and they were coached properly, and the team was just decimated by injuries last year. And as I told John Spytek, who was sitting in your seat, the roster's better, I think, than everybody gives it credit for because of the players coming back. But there's this massive topic about a quarterback, and that's not going to go away. And every time these gentlemen, Paul, get in front of a microphone for the next 2 months, they're going to be asked about the quarterback, and there's a couple of good ones at the top of the draft board.
Well, not only that, but as we said earlier, the quarterback is topic 1 and OC is 1A, or 1B is the OC. 1C then is, there's a lot of talent on the roster, but look at the defensive side of the ball, which Pete Carroll is a defensive-minded coach. The entire starting defense is basically hitting free agency. So that's another topic for Spytek then to attack himself as the GM. When you're looking, you got 2 defensive ends in Malcolm Kuntz and Chason. You've got both linebackers, Spillane and Diablo. You got your nickel cornerback in Nate Hobbs. You got both safeties, Marcus Epps and Trayvon Merrick, all hitting free agency. That is a tall order right off the bat to figure out, okay, well, do we want to bring these people back or do we need to put our own imprint on things?
And with all of that, how much input does Tom Brady? Do you sit down with Tom Brady and go through, hey, this is the personality of this player, this is the personality of that player, offensive line wise? I mean, the timing, it has to be done like yesterday, right? For us to be successful. Do you think Mr. Brady's going to have that type of input on those critical issues?
I would defer to you, EA, on that because you were actually the guy that diagrammed the tuck rule play because you went over and snuck in and listened. They're running triple. So, he's obviously going to have a say. He already has. I mean, how many times did his name come up in this presser today?
Yeah.
So it's obvious that he has a major say in this. And in talking with Mark Davis afterward, from the day that Mark Davis took over this organization upon the passing of his Hall of Fame father, Al Davis, he said, and what impressed me in covering this team for so long that I've covered it was, I don't know a lot, but I know what I don't know. So I have to surround myself with people who do know. He's doing that now in his mind anyway, and it is starting to kind of come to fruition. The big test is getting wins because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, right?
Yeah, I want to follow up real quickly on Mark. I thought today was an important day for Mark. Yeah. He just introduced him. He wasn't there fielding questions. You could tell the people he's surrounding himself with himself now, it's an evolution. One more question on the draft. Do you think today, if I hold you to it, the Raiders draft a quarterback in the top 6?
It depends on who's still there. Okay. It all depends upon that. I mean, it depends upon, again, what type of team are they building? Are they building a bruising team? And then Ashton Genty from Boise State looks kind of nice there at 6, and then Jackson Dart in the 2nd round. I'm just saying.
So, is there a quarterback that they love, that they are like, hey, this is the guy who's going to be our franchise quarterback for the next 15 years?
I will defer to you again to listen to you go listen into Tom Brady's conversation with the coach and like you did in the tuck rule game. No. At this point, I would think that the front runner would have to be Shedeur Sanders, simply because of the relationship he already has with Tom Brady and having worked out with him. Now, what does that mean at the end of the day? We'll find out at the end of April for the draft. But right now, were I a betting man? Were we in Las Vegas? Was I a UNLV alum? Yeah, I might say something along those lines.
And you mentioned Jackson Dart, and I wrote down Jalen Milroe because here's a big deal. If you love those guys, you take them whenever you want.
Agreed.
You don't move back. Everyone's into this.
Agreed.
I want Jackson Dart in the 2nd round. No, you don't. You want him at number 6 if you want him that bad. One round isn't going to change it. He could be the future of this team. If you love Shedeur, you don't wait for 6. You go get him at 2 or 3. But I don't know, because I think I've always felt after the Devontae trade was made and that next 3rd round pick came and they had the 2 3rd-rounders and a high 2nd-rounder, you can package all 3 of those picks to get back into the 1st round in the top 10, not the top 2 or 3. And I think we're going to learn about John Spytek going forward because all the young GMs say the same thing, and he said it better than all of them. You want to build through the draft. But, man, when you see those free agents and you got $100 million there, Paul, as you mentioned, that's a good number to go hunting.
And that's where the meshing of the philosophies of an old school veteran coach like Pete Carroll meets with the vision of a first-time ever GM. Where do you meet? Where is that line?
Yeah, I got a text from a buddy of mine who worked with Pete up at KJR in Seattle, and I loved Competition Wednesday. That's what it was called up there. I wanted to get the day right. I don't know if it was Wednesday or Thursday, and he said Wednesday. And they came back to look at tape Monday, and it was like the be honest day to look at the tape. It was hard. Then they had the day off, and on that Wednesday, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, they were cracking pads competing. I mean, it was physical. Not that it wasn't physical with AP and Rich Bisaccia and Coach Gruden, but the world has changed. We're not practicing as much. I think that Pete Carroll is going to amp up the level of competition here so everybody feels they're going to play on game day.
And he has to. That's literally what the state of the NFL is now, especially in this division. I mean, you had 3 of the 4 teams were in the playoffs, and you got the Chiefs, again, going to their 3rd straight Super Bowl, 4th in the past 5 years. So they need to – the competition is in the division, but it needs to begin in this building, in this locker room, out on that field.
Do you have a Super Bowl pick? I mean, look, this is like my brother here, and he knows one team I don't root for ever my whole life are his Eagles. I am the leader of the Raider Nation saying no three-peat. No three-peat. So I wanted to make this announcement with you here. This is the first time in my life I'm rooting for your Birds.
Oh, the first time
ever. I would never root for that
Can I get
team.
a fly, Eagles fly?
No, you won't. But I cannot see the three-peat coming along. And I think the Eagles can win this Super Bowl because they have Barkley.
Yes.
He can change the game. Rarely have we seen that recently in the modern Super Bowl era where, Paul, there's a running back who can dominate the game in time of possession.
Which is, to me, and I remember talking with Eric Dickerson and Marcus Allen at the alumni event in the preseason, and they both are like, hey, this whole narrative about running backs being undervalued, underpaid, it's going to flip back around at some point. We're seeing that right now.
It really did this year.
Which is why now I'm not so – if Ashton Genty's there at 6 and maybe that's the guy you like, I'm not going to hate that either. But I'm with you, JT. If you like your guy, go get your guy.
Yeah. And this year, like we're talking about, it really has gone back to a complementary style of football. The Chiefs, with their running game, being able, since Kelsey was kind of, throughout the season, he wasn't that dynamite football player, so they had to lean on the running game a little bit. Buffalo Bills leaned on the running game, maybe not as much as they should have yesterday, but that's what it's about. It's about that running game coming back, being able to be a dominant part, and that's another thing that we talk about, being able to adjust. So if you're a coach who's been on the league for a little while, now you got to come back. You're not going to be able to practice as much. You're not going to be able to practice hard coming off injury. So there's a lot of things, coaching philosophy-wise, that Pete's going to have to do different, right?
Not only that, but I mean, you also have to remember this, that he's only been out of the game for 1 year.
Yeah.
And the last time he was out of the game for 1 year was when he I believe it was the Jets that fired him, and then he went to the Patriots, and then he went to USC after that. So he reinvented himself. And as he said today, that he enjoyed taking last year off because he was able to watch his son coach at UW. He was able to watch his grandkids play quarterback in high school and whatnot. So he's re-energized, and he's only been out of the game for 1 year. So the need to change, the need to adapt, that's always going to be in there.
I was happy we had a Bill Walsh reference, Kezar Stadium, and Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. I mean, he had it all covered up here. Finally, we want to look at the future opponents coming up here for the Raiders. This is fascinating to me because I like an international game thrown in, right? So that we were wondering about what's going to happen with the schedule, but that home schedule features the Cowboys. That could be one of the biggest games in the history of Allegiant Stadium when it comes to a fan perspective there. And, Paul, look at that road schedule. What jumps out at you? Eagles are in the Super Bowl. The Commanders went really far. Texans. And then all the other teams that are in the playoffs from this past year.
For a personal and selfish reason, I'm looking forward to the Eagles. Because that's one of the only 2 stadiums in the NFL I have yet to go cover a game in.
It's nice.
So I want to go see it.
Nice.
Wear your UNLV gear. Don't wear your UNLV gear.
No.
They get after you in South Philly.
Yeah, exactly. But that was the other part of it, too, was I did get a text, JT, yesterday. Well, it was a response, but the text came back to me and said, "Fly, Eagles, fly." So I can say that because that's what he wrote to me.
Okay.
But I'm a big fan of Pastor Randall. Randall Cunningham was my dude from UNLV, so I'm going with the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
The Commanders. And seeing that young quarterback who, at this time last year, a lot of questions about would he be on our football team.
Right.
And we saw how good he was as a young rookie.
Yeah, that was an important point you said. The Raiders had no chance to get Jaden Daniels. There was some bad reporting from the Raiders didn't try to go get him. No. The Raiders knew they couldn't get him. It was off the board from day one, rightfully so for Jaden Daniels as we take a look at the quarterbacks coming up here. Final thoughts overall on what today, because you're so connected with the fans, what it means to the fans who have been through so much when it comes to coaching changes and GM changing.
Well, if Twitter, social media, whatever it is a microcosm of what the fans really feel like, that there's this, it's somewhere between an acceptance and an excitement. because, again, there's this feeling that there's, again, not taking shots at anybody else. There's an adult in the room. There's somebody that knows how to do it. You know exactly what you're getting with Pete Carroll. With Antonio Pierce, you weren't really sure in terms of game management. With Josh McDaniels, you weren't really sure because of how things went in Denver. With Rich Bisaccia, you didn't really know because he was an interim guy. This goes back to John Gruden. You know, this is the first time since that time that you have somebody with a resume, with tape. You know exactly what you're getting, or at least can predict with an educated guess what you're going to get going forward.
Final thoughts, my friend.
I think this is a humongous day for all of Raider Nation. I'm happy you joined us. The one thing, the culture has been set, right, by AP, but we're going to go a million miles an hour with Coach Pete.
You have to.
Thank you for doing this.
Thanks, guys.
There he is, Paul Gutierrez. As we wrap it up here, quickly, EA, your big picture now going forward. There's a lot happening here. The Raiders are going to have a pretty busy offseason, but as you pointed out, they're working tonight. There's a lot of work to be done.
And it has to be, because that's when you start to evaluate yourself first. And that's the building blocks of this organization, to find a way to get those players who we want back on this football team in-house and ready to go.
Want to thank everyone at Silver and Black Productions. They had a busy day today. The entire crew on the other side of this wall knocked it out of the park. Again, all of our guests, Paul, who came in, Tashan Reed, Lincoln Kennedy, Jason Horowitz, and we had John Spytek and Pete Carroll on.
Big.
That is a banner day here on Raider Nation Radio. Q Myers is coming up next. Q is at the press conference. He will take it from here and do a great job. Bobby back in studio, and everybody else who gave us this opportunity today. We welcome Pete Carroll and John Spytek. Q's coming up next.